But that's the pro version. Damn, $45, forget it.
I mean, if Rick can afford a green screen, anybody can. And all his is just a green sheet.
Yeah. Well, I gotta get something to put it up on though. How
You
do
just
I
hang it from the ceiling.
have to like nail it to the ceiling or something?
Well, if it's lightweight, like, I don't know, you have a bright room, so you probably don't need that thick of a sheet. Though, you do have a light that comes in from behind you. That could be an issue.
Yeah, that's the problem. If I put up a
Yeah.
sheet, it's gonna block the overhead. I don't know.
No, I wasn't worried more about that. I was more the sunlight that comes in behind you. If your sheet was too thin, you'd have sunlight coming through, and it would disrupt the chroma key. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna move pretty soon anyway.
You can set up, do a proper green screen setup after that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna need to move in the next month and a half because my 6-month term is up at the end of June. So presumably they will want me to move back to Arizona.
Get a clothing rack?
We could just get one of the clothing racks.
I mean, I would do it the super cheap way. And I would just go to Home Depot. But this would be a pretty big setup depending on how far behind you it needs to be. Closer to the camera, the smaller it could be. And I would just get a bunch of like PVC piping, and I would just create a frame to hang the sheet on. Because I used to do puppet shows and stuff, and me and my dad made the entire like puppet rack that everybody stood behind. And we just went to Home Depot, got a whole bunch of like PVC piping and connector joints, made this huge frame, and then just hung these thick purple sheets over them. And everybody stood behind it.
Well, you know, it's funny. I watch several Twitch streamers and YouTubers and stuff like that. And there's this one guy, DGR Dave, who does a lot of Mario Maker streams. I don't know what his setup is, but like there's like a panel behind him that he can like open up down to like waist height. Because occasionally his wife will pop in and she'll just like, pop out the panel, and then you can see her and you can see the background. But it's like it's just a panel, so it must be a cutout of the green screen.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you could just get like a really big, like, what's it called? Drywall, and just paint it the green color, just flat, so that it reflects the light evenly, and just slide it into place when you need it and slide it back out when you don't.
Yeah. Well, there's got to be solutions out there. Like people who've made racks for holding.
Amazon actually has like it's almost like projector screen that you pull down, and it's got like the stand behind it, and they've got that, but it's just like a green screen that you can pull down as long as your camera doesn't see the edge or anything. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Dillard was telling me about it. He used to have one, or he might actually even still have it.
Yeah, that would make sense. Just a projector
Style
stand.
Down. Yeah.
That you just pull down. That I imagine could have multiple different backgrounds potentially.
Would. I don't know why you'd want to. You really just need the green screen in the modern day.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
I asked someone on Twitter was saying that they were having a lot of trouble with their Elgato video capture, which I haven't had too much trouble. I mean, little annoyances here and there. It crashes OBS every once in a while, but they mentioned another capture card that might be better, but I don't know. I guess until my Elgato really becomes a headache,
I like my
stick with
Elgato.
that.
I have an older one too. I noticed that newer products in general these days, by popular companies, tend to just work worse and worse as time goes on. Probably because they're just making so much money that they stop giving a shit about the quality of their products. Because once you become a name brand, it's like a lot of times you just sell off of your name. If you think capture card, what's the first name that comes to your mind?
Yeah, Elgato.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's just from the assumption how everything's been working. I don't know how the new products are. Everything I have from Elgato is at least like 6 years old.
Magewell external capture card. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. No, not at all.
Apparently they're good. I don't know. This coming from exactly one person.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They look similar to the Elgato, except a little bit blockier. It's a little bit more rectangular.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes it better or not.
I don't know.
This person was having trouble with their Elgato, and they got a Magewell, and it worked.
I mean, because the components aren't that big that having the extra space of having your surface area come all the way off to the corners isn't going to make that big of a difference. It's also not going to make that big of a difference for relieving heat, so I don't really think the shape's going to make too much.
No, I'm just saying it's just interesting that it's shaped differently. I don't think that has any effect on it.
Now, once we get to like the size of spaceships, that starts to make a difference.
Sure. Well, I think I'd sooner get a new camera, a new microphone, or whatever, because at the moment my capture card is working just fine.
I highly recommend a dedicated microphone and camera setup.
Yeah. It's funny that apparently Nick Ricada, who's using some fancy SLR camera, I guess he's still using his regular microphone because he was on Twitch last night and his camera battery died, but you could still hear him. You could actually see it said like battery low, and it's kind of like you see from like movies and stuff.
Nick,
like starting to flash.
Plug your camera in.
Battery low. Yeah, and then it just died, but you could still hear him.
Well, that's why I made sure for my setup, because I haven't used it yet. I'm still trying to figure out the exact proper placement of things and all that stuff. But I've showed you my camera setup and how it can work now. I made sure that I had enough spots to actually plug my camera in, because if I use it, I don't want it to die on me at any point in time.
Yeah. You know what I really need is an HDMI switch.
Yeah.
I used to have one of these. In fact, this is the one I used to have, Kinevo. Because I have the two monitors, but if I want to play like my SNES Mini or the Switch or something, and I want to put it up on the monitor, I have to plug out the old one, plug in the new one, all that crap.
Yeah, luckily I only have two things that I need HDMI for, and my current monitor has two different ports, so I'm exactly where I need it to be. But if I get one more thing to plug in, well, I'm already at my limit.
Yeah. Fancy. What was the other technical? The other technical thing I wanted to bring up, since we're still in the pre-show, right?
Yeah.
We're not live or anything.
Well, we're live. We've been live.
I know. I'm just kidding. I wanted to capture my. We haven't talked in like 2 days.
I know.
I wanted to capture my inputs from my controller. So obviously, with the 8-bit DOE, that's real easy. I figured out. You can go to like a web page that will show all the inputs, and then you can just display that in OBS. And it has multiple skins and stuff. But if you want to do the same with the SNES controller, obviously it can't capture that normally on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something called, I want to say is originally called Nintendo Spy. That's basically it's software and it's hardware. It's an Arduino modification. But there's also a fork of Nintendo Spy called Retro Spy, that actually I didn't even realize when I was looking this up was created by a friend of mine who goes by Zoggins on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoggins basically took the Nintendo Pi and just, what do you call it, genericized it so that you can use it for any console.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a website for it where he does the mods. He'll send you the completely done Arduino and even the spliced cable that you need. Because you have to plug it into the cable extender, which plugs into the SNES and plugs into your computer.
Yeah. Oh, I know there's a lot of people do that. There's a lot of like Smash Brother players, specifically the Melee players who are still stuck on playing that old GameCube game, like to map their buttons, and they'll put it on the screen. You can see when each button gets pressed or when the controller goes to the side, just so like for educational purposes, you can actually see what these top level players are doing and try to mimic it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get into speedrunning or anything like that, but I was watching some speedrunners, and they have, it shows all their button inputs, and I was like, that'd be kind of cool, especially with a bit more high-paced or fast-paced games. So yeah, I caught, like, it's so stupid because this guy always talks about it on his Twitter account, and it just didn't occur to me when I was searching for it, and then I saw his name. It was like, this is created by Zoggins. So I was like, oh, of course. So I contacted him, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll sell it to you at cost. So I told him, well, I just want one for the SNES Classic, and I need the spliced cable because I don't want to do the splicing myself. So he's going to send me that, and hopefully in the next couple weeks. That'll be really cool.
Mm-hmm. And with that, welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I hear I'm not anywhere near as fatigued as you are.
Yeah. I was saying, this whole week, and it's just this week, I've been so tired. I think it's, we were talking a bit offline, and I'm guessing that my supposedly non drowsy antihistamine is catching up with me, and it's causing me to be drowsy. So I might just have to stop taking it. That's the only thing I can come up with. I'm like, why am I so tired this week? Why? I can't understand it. So I'm getting plenty of sleep. It's just I wake up and I could go right back to sleep. So,
I'm gonna have to push back on something that Buck just said. Not that it's entirely inaccurate, but that's not the reason why Melee players would refuse to play a Melee remaster. They have no problem with learning new frames. There's actually quite a few Melee players that moved on to Ultimate, and some of them that just went back because Ultimate wasn't as good as Melee. The real reason is that they're afraid that if they remaster Melee, they actually make a Melee HD, they're going to neuter it all to hell, including taking out things like L canceling and the stuff that really makes Melee a high-level competitive sport in that regard. Because there's a lot of frame canceling and things in Melee that you can do that you just really can't do in any other Smash Brothers. Crouch canceling, which can stop your momentum from flying if you crouch up to a certain percent. It's almost the same as shielding, and there's all kinds of these like little tiny tricks that the actual learning curve for entering Melee is super fucking high, and you don't realize how much you don't know when you're going up against somebody who knows like anything about that game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real reason they don't want to move on, is they don't mind playing games like Ultimate because Ultimate is different and it's learning different things. They wouldn't want them to ruin what makes Melee Melee.
Well, I've heard they might be coming up with. They might be adding Nintendo 64 games to the Switch.
Same
way they have the NES and SNES games.
Maybe. That would have the original Smash Brothers would probably be in that list then, since that was a 64 game. There are quite a few games I would like to just have access to again. Similar to having all those NES and SNES games. There's a lot of N64 games I love.
Yeah, it's a shame that they're just trickling all these NES and SNES games. I mean, I guess there could be copyright issues or something, but it's like, I wish I could play as crappy as it is, like Jaws for the NES on the Switch, or just like Xanadu or some, Dragon Warrior 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Well, that's why for the most part they're sticking to first-party games, and there are a few non-first-party games on there, like third-party titles, but not a lot of the really big ones, right? Like we have River City's on there. That's a third-party title, but that's not like a huge third-party title for the NES or SNES.
Yeah.
But it is hard with getting licenses for stuff like that,
I guess. I mean, is that it? They need to get a license to put it on the virtual console or whatever you call it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. They definitely need to have licenses for that. Some people will be more amenable than others, like Konami, I know, has already been working well with them. The real problem comes down to old games that it might not be clear where the license falls anymore.
Yeah.
Especially with like defunct companies, maybe they don't know who bought out the license or who absorbed the company, or if it could be in copyright hell, just like in this limbo graveyard where nobody has access to it, and it would take like a year of legal pursuit to figure out how to get access to this license.
Yeah, starting with someone like just going ahead and claiming it, just like take the chance and say, yeah, it's ours.
And then you follow through the paperwork, and they'll find out it's like, oh, but we're hitting a snag right here. It's like, okay, well, now we know who we have to go and contact.
Yeah, is it the publisher? Is it the developer?
Is it a single license holder?
Yeah. And would all that legal crap be worth the effort, worth the cost?
Yeah.
I guess that's why in some cases we're just going to have to, that's why we have emulation.
Yeah.
I guess. I was actually wondering if, because, that my modded SNES has several different emulators. I wonder if it would work with a PS1 emulator. It may not be powerful enough.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of, because, I mean, these classics, they are basically just lightweight Raspberry Pi machines. That's basically how they are. But I don't know if how strong they are, and if they could actually run PS1 games.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've been thinking about doing some Castlevania playing. Although I think I did stream Symphony of the Night recently, didn't I? I remember playing it. I don't know if I played it online or offline.
I don't remember watching you play it, so probably not. Of course, I could have always just been busy. That happens sometimes.
I played through that game. A dozen times, but I still want to play it again. I should speedrun that.
If you try. That's a very speed-runnable game, but God.
Yeah. It's funny. We were watching Rick play Portal 1 last night. I was very nostalgic. It's fun to watch one. Yeah, me too.
It was hard to
although
watch
well, it's fun to watch someone play for the first time and try to remember, did I have trouble with that? How many times did it take me to figure that out? Because I'm sure the first time I got to the end, I'm sure I died a time or two.
I don't remember. It was too long ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I died. I seem to remember, but and some other areas I'm sure I had trouble with. But it's fun just to watch someone else.
It is a very easy final boss, because if you're paying very close attention, every spot you need to put a portal is kind of struck out by the level design. Like, you could tell where you're supposed to put things.
Yeah. I just remember the very first time I played and got to that part, I had a lot of trouble though, getting up to where you need to get to grab the little spheres.
Oh, yeah.
Especially that last one that's like hovering in the middle. I don't know how Rick grabbed that. I was like, oh, he's never going to get this. He's never going. And he just like all of a sudden it was there. I was like,
oh, that's how
did
I
he
got
do
it.
that?
Was I just ran out and jumped and grabbed it. But I've got like a really good twitch reflexes, so that's just like whatever.
Yeah. I'm sure he was pressing E like really fast. Just like, YOLO, get it. He got it. So I was like, I was amazed that he actually finished that last part after only like 3 tries or something like that. So,
I was laughing like one time, you can see the cube there, right? And the whole part right there where you're using the turret to break the glass, everything about that puzzle involves you breaking glass. That you should assume that the next thing you need is breaking whatever glass nearby, including that tube, where if you're paying close attention, you can see the companion cube in there. But no, his idea is, I'm going to go grab an office chair and try to put it in front of the thing to hop on, and then stand on an office chair to solve my problem. Because even in real life, that's not a smart idea for solving your problems. Those chairs have wheels.
Is that I dipped out briefly. Is that how he got in there, or did he figure out the whole
No, he eventually got the cube out, because when he put the chair down, it immediately fell on his side, and he couldn't get it back up.
Oh. Yeah, I was thinking that in that section. I was like, okay, I was just thinking to myself, because obviously we're not talking to him, but I'm thinking, okay, the game just taught you this is how you break glass. So then he got to the second pane of glass, and I was like, do what you just did.
Yeah.
It just taught you this. Now do it again. And it took him a couple of tries. Eventually he got it. But then, I think by the time he got to the part where he had to get up into that little crawl space, I was like, I'm going to dip out for a bit. I don't know.
I like games that punish you for going overboard on a mechanic they just teach you. Because once a game teaches me a new mechanic, I will just like do it everywhere. It's like, oh, I got a new thing I can do. Let me go see how many things I can do this new thing on. And I like it like if there's a trap set up in one of them, it's like, ha ha ha, maybe you should have just kept going forward. I'm punishing you now. I always think it's clever when a game does that. It's like, touche game, touche.
Don't always do that. But I was telling him in the chat, I was like, after he finished it, he's like, well, there's all these bonus levels and extra stuff. And I'm like, just move on. Like, you've played it, you've experienced it. Play Portal 2. It's so much better.
Yeah, it's better. And there's far more bonus stuff to do. Much more.
Yeah.
In Portal 2, especially now that they just took that cap off. So if Rick ends up liking Portal 2, you're probably just gonna, well, this is Rick's life now. He's just gonna keep doing all the mods and everything for Portal 2.
Yeah, but like the controls better, the graphics are better. It's just like, just play that. Like the only reason at this point I think you'd want to play Portal 1 is just to experience it before you play Portal 2. In my opinion, just so you get a sense of progression.
The thing is, I actually think now that the limit is off of it, there's probably just going to be... I know there's several mods already where you can play each level in Portal 1 and Portal 2, but none of them together. There's probably going to be a mod that is just a, I guess, remastering of Portal 1 in Portal 2.
Yeah, that would be good. I could look it up.
Yeah, probably. But let's see. I actually do have things for us to talk about.
All right.
Actually, here we go. This reminded me of something. Twitch. Fucking Twitch. You know, these people. Did you hear about some of their new categories? Or the one particular? So Twitch, we were going to talk about this yesterday, but we didn't end up streaming yesterday. Twitch added a new category because apparently there's this problem where in the just chatting section, a bunch of these titty streamers, I'm just going to outright call them titty streamers, are spending all their time in hot tubs just talking to people in their bathing suits because they know that's what gets them the views and the donations, their bits and stuff like that. Show their bits to get some bits. And Twitch is like, we can't have that. Kids watch this network and, just chatting. You're giving it a bad reputation. So instead of actually, I don't know, cracking down on it or anything like that, Twitch's solution was, let's just make a pools, hot tubs, and beaches category. Now, I'm a fairly libertarian person. I do believe that they should let stuff like that on their platform. And that they should just have separate categories. I actually like this solution if Twitch hasn't hypocritically gone back against all of the things they've ever claimed to stand for over the last few years. You remember, what was it, like 2015 or 16, where Twitch was like, nobody can have low-cut shirts, even guys, because it's not fair. But then they really only started enforcing it on the guys and not the women.
Mm-hmm.
It's shit like this. It's like, if they were consistent with their solutions, I would like this solution. But Twitch has kind of been a piece of shit when it comes to this stuff.
It's really uneven, and it's almost like I think it's a training issue. I think their training of their internal moderation team really sucks, because I think a lot of the inconsistency problems that I've seen has been due to whoever just happens to be looking at a particular issue or whatever. Because like, I follow Holly Wolf, for instance, is on Twitch. She's a former, I guess, Playboy Playmate.
Yeah.
But she does gaming. She doesn't do hot tub things. She rarely wears anything really particularly revealing. She mostly does gaming. She does some just chatting, and she does like these streams where she does like gardening.
Yeah.
Like, where she'll be wearing, sexy clothes, but nothing. She's not wearing like bathing suits or anything like that. And she has been getting censored like up the ass. Like, she got temporarily banned just for her, like, the icon on, or maybe the background on her Twitch channel. And she's had streams, like, community guideline strikes for like a stream where she's sitting there gardening and like talking about gardening tips. And it's like, what the hell? And she claims that, like, I guess she's a big enough channel that she has like a dedicated person that watches the streams and, watches out for that stuff. And she said that at one point, she had talked to them and they were all cool with everything. And then at one point, I guess that person left the company or whatever, and she got switched to someone new. And that's when all this bullshit started happening.
Oh yeah, that happens over at YouTube too. Like, you get to know somebody who it kind of basically becomes your agent in a way, your communication line to the network, and then that person leaves, and you're like, oh, fuck, I got to start all over again.
Yeah, and I think it's a training issue.
Yeah.
For these people, some people are stricter than others. And it's like, no, you need to be consistent. Doesn't matter who does the moderating.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Here's another thing about this hot tub stream. So they've kind of loosened up when it comes to guys and low cut shirts. Like, you can wear a muscle shirt on stream now, but you can't be shirtless still over on Twitch. So, do you have to wear like a tank top or something if you're a guy in a hot tub stream?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I've not seen any guys in hot tub streams.
Beaches are in the category, right? To go to beaches, will you get flagged? Even if, like, you say you're a woman who's properly wearing, like, full bathing suit, but then there's a guy walking shirtless on the beach that walks past you in your camera shot. I need to know the exact standards of moderation when it comes to this stuff. Well, also, I don't plan on doing a beach stream, but they need to know, because that's the fair way of doing things.
If you're doing a live stream, like with selfie stick or something, and you're just like walking around town, is that just chatting?
I think so.
Or is there? And then what happens if you like in one of these cities where there's like a beach and you walk by a beach? Do you have to like change the the category temporarily while you're walking by?
There needs to be
Or if
like
you
a
dare to walk
hiking
off.
or an exploring category just in general, which I would totally be down for. I would strap whatever cell service camera up to my head, and I would just go exploring all the time, yelling into my microphone.
Is there not?
I don't know.
Be.
There needs to be.
They've got a ridiculous number of categories. Here, let me look. So, what is it called? Beaches or pools?
It's pools, hot tubs, and beaches is the new category that they're adding. I don't know if it's been added yet. Oh, has it? Yeah.
Yep, it's in there. Well, there's hiking simulator.
Yeah, I'm totally playing hiking simulator. This mod just makes it look just like real life.
I mean, there's just chatting, obviously, but yeah, there's no hiking. What else would it be called? Walking?
I don't know. Exploration, exploring, adventuring. I don't fucking know.
There's exploration.
Exploration.
I don't know if
that might be a name of a game for all I know.
Maybe.
That's the problem. Is like things that could be categories could also be the name of a game, because what name hasn't been used for a game at this point?
They don't have like geotagging even.
Oh.
Or what is that? What it's called? Geocaching.
Yeah, geocaching. I love geocaching.
Oh, they do. They do. They have a geocaching category.
Oh, hey, it's your song. It's the Slam Shuffle.
Oh, is this the Slam Shuffle? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. What version is this?
This is the OC remix.
Well, this one sounds cooler than the one I listened to the other day.
Yeah.
I forget what else I was going to look
Slam
up.
Shuffling.
I thought so. They also mentioned, and I didn't know if you were going to bring this up. They also mentioned something about an LGBT.
Oh, you're talking about the 350 new community tags that are being added next week?
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, they're not categories, they're tags. So you can actually tag your channel with community tags to bring in the type of viewers that you're looking for to grow your community. And Twitch says that it acknowledges that it was wrong to not let creators choose about tags about who they are or what they stand for.
Okay.
That's the exact words.
Well, I saw
on Twitch.
I didn't even know it. Okay. Did they not? Like, can't you type whatever you want, or can you not?
No. The tag actually did have to pop up, right? So you could type it in, but it actually, like a pop-up menu will happen, and you have to click on one of the ones to accept. And pretty much all the tags are related to gender, sex, orientation, race, nationality, ability, mental health, and everything around that. And it's like,
Yeah. Oh, and I saw one of the things they said was they're removing the word ally from the LGBTQIA+.
And just giving ally its own tag.
Yeah. I guess people objected to allies putting that in their tag, like people who are not LGBTQIA+.
Yeah, but shouldn't you still have, like, in parentheses that the allies regarding to that? Because it's like, I don't know, man, I could be an ally to anything. Like, what if I am a hardened stanced ally to some military foundation because I think that we should imperially conquer the entire planet? It's just a pretty loose title there.
Well, they said they're just separating that out into a separate tag. So, because we need to subdivide people as much.
I know I'm definitely not an Axis, I'll tell you that.
They already don't like the B in there being
Yeah,
used.
well, of course nobody in the alphabet soup community likes the B.
But the B are the coolest people.
They are. They're the most sane people. They're just like, yeah, I mean, I like a little the other thing, but like,
yeah. They're the most inclusive.
Yeah.
pretty much, everything goes. Anything goes.
Well, not anything goes.
Well, I guess you could replace the B with a P for pan, I guess.
Yeah, well, that would be separate. Well, because they're by people that are just not into people that have had surgeries or are presenting as something else, right?
That would be a super buy.
Yeah. By today's terminology, probably.
Like super straight. Yeah, well, they need to add S to LGBTQIA plus to include.
Or we could just drop the whole thing.
And just call people?
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Just say we're all people? Well, I briefly ended up deleting the tweet because I didn't want to deal with whatever idiots might have responded. But I wondered aloud, is it possible to filter out certain tags on Twitch? Like if I don't want to see anyone that's tagged with ally or LGBTQIA+.
Yeah, can I just filter out all of the tags? And I only want to see untagged people, uncategorized.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I know that there were a lot of just normal, quote unquote, not that most of this stuff is abnormal, but it definitely is an average. But all the old types of tags for communities, like racing games and things that you'd be interested into. I've just never used those. Like, I definitely wouldn't use any of the new ones for sure. But I never even use the old tags. I just why? Why do I need a tag? Like, I know it helps people find your channel, but shouldn't the games you play also help people find your channel? Like, there should be meta tags that you don't have access to when it comes to games, right? Where if you play so many of this type of game, because the game would be registered, like you play so many platformers, they should start recommending you to people who like platformers, like they watch a lot of platforming and stuff like that.
Well, when you select a game, I think it usually puts certain tags in there. I don't know if you can remove them or not.
Well, when you select a game,
it
just puts you in any category that's actively that game at the moment. So if they're searching by the game or if they're searching by the genre or whatever, you're automatically in there, but only while you're actively streaming.
Right.
These tags are more for like finding channels, and they're active whether you are streaming at the moment or not.
But aren't they in the same place? Or are there channel? So when I go to edit stream info, there's tag.
Yeah.
And so the current tags, I didn't put them in, but since I selected Final Fantasy VI, it put in RPG, adventure game, open world. I didn't put those. It just automatically added them. But are there other tags specifically for the whole channel?
I don't know, because I think they don't. If you add a tag, they don't take them away when they change out the other things.
Oh, okay. So you just add a tag.
Yeah.
And it's just
it won't go away unless you remove the tag. So even if you switch games, it'll change out those other tags, but it won't change out the ones that you added.
I'll put super straight. Just kidding. That's not how. I don't care. I don't know why anyone would care who I sleep with.
Yeah, the only people who should care are people who are trying to sleep with you.
That's right.
This is what I've never understood about any of this stuff. Is like, technically the only person who actually cares is you. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, at the end of the day. Because if you go up to somebody else and you're like, hey, I'm interested, they're like, sorry, I don't roll that way. That's kind of always been the case, right? And that doesn't necessarily even mean that they don't like people in general like you. They don't like you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Twitch is pretty stupid and backwards at times.
Yeah, I mean, at least I guess they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything particularly egregious here, but they do need to figure out. You know, they're catering to these tub streamers, but like, God forbid you have a stream where you talk about politics or something like that.
Yeah.
They'll eat you right out of existence.
Yeah, but it's because these tub streamers bring them a lot of money.
I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think would bring in more money in general? People who are actively engaged in politics, very small minority of people, or horny guys?
Pretty much all of the people.
Yeah.
Not all of whom necessarily watch tub streams or donate to them, but
tub streams. Only good tub streams are VTuber tub streams, because at that point it's almost like satire.
yeah, you know, it all started with a certain streamer selling her own bathwater. I blame what's her name?
Yeah.
I don't remember her name.
Belle Delphine.
Who was that? Oh yeah, Belle Delphine.
How can you not remember her name?
I don't know.
There's a lot of people who I probably should remember their names. I don't think I'll ever forget Belle Delphine's name, just because of the weird ass crazy impact that she's had on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
Well, speaking of weird ass things on the internet. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, did they ever reinstate? I guess they did. I think they did. You know, Amaranth got her ad revenue pulled because of her tub streams, and they reinstated it though, right?
I don't know. Probably. I would assume so. Or maybe this is their way of getting people. Maybe they added this category, right? So that they can just pull the ad revenue of anybody who uses it. It's like there's a bait. It's
Well, they
trap.
can
It's their litmus test.
display or not display ads based on it. Right?
No, they're just gonna pull it from your channel. Like this is the trap.
Oh, I see.
Like, aha, we gotcha.
Self-reporting.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't think I'm sure like less than 1% of her total income comes from ad revenue, I'm sure.
Probably. Like that tends to be the case for most people. You're far more likely to get ad revenue or like a substantial amount from Twitch than you are from, say, like YouTube, but it's still going to be pretty small compared to like other methods of getting money.
Yeah, I'm sure the vast majority of her revenue comes from people donating and bits and subscriptions and all that stuff. Which they didn't pull any of that. They just pulled ads.
Yeah. Well, I think because we've talked about the monetization thing on YouTube before. When I was reconsidering, I was remembering that super chats are tied to monetization, and as opposed to ad revenue, and that's the important part because people make far more off of super chats than they ever did off of ads.
Yeah, I wish YouTube would separate that out.
Yeah,
the way that apparently Twitch does, where you could monetize as far as allowing people to donate without getting monetized as far as ad revenue. Because for some people that's important, and they can get, you know, if they put up a video, they can make a lot of money from the ad revenue. They get tens or hundreds of thousands of hits. But for mostly live streamers, which Twitch obviously is mostly for live streamers, it's far more important to be monetized as far as people donating. That's half the reason I switched over to almost exclusively Twitch, because I won't say never, but it's very difficult to get monetized on YouTube, and I'm already monetized on Twitch forever.
Or you could be a smart person and use some type of third-party donation software that allows your people to communicate directly with you, even on screen, as well as bypassing any of these services' weird ad policies. If you would like to support the Vomitorium, please go to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive for a monetary donation.
Yeah, I use that, but nobody ever donated to me.
Yeah.
Whereas on Twitch, I have several subscribers, paying subscribers.
I'm thinking of just making my own subscription stuff that I can make custom links for, because PayPal allows you to make renewable subscriptions.
Well, you need to get us as an affiliate on Twitch. I bet we'd qualify.
No, we don't have enough followers.
Seriously?
We haven't hit 50 yet. Over here on the Vomitorium.
Damn.
Yeah. Most of our viewers are usually on YouTube.
That's true. That's true. Well, follow us on Twitch.
And then again, if I add things up, most of our actual viewership listens to the podcast afterwards. Over on like SoundCloud and Apple and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think I interrupted you. Were you going to say something else?
I was saying, speaking of weird internet shit, I would consider dedicated streaming services to kind of be weird internet shit, because it's like, hey, remember cable? Originally, streaming was great. It got you away from cable. And now it's becoming cable again. Well, one service is actually trying to separate itself from cable yet again, and it's the one that started this shit. Netflix responds to its reports about looking into expanding into games.
Like renting games?
Yes, like streaming games and stuff like that. Because, you know, Netflix is like, well, you know, we kind of ruined Blockbuster. What was some of the other stuff that they did? Maybe we can take that niche too.
Yeah. Or are they saying we're going to ruin Steam now?
Yeah. And it says it's like, we're excited to do more with interactive entertainment. Now, that doesn't inherently imply that they want to do video games. There's a lot of different forms of interactive entertainment, especially when DVDs tried to kind of be like games. You remember that? Like when you would get like a Disney DVD and it would have like a click left or right to progress through this like basically visual novel and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and Netflix tried that with Bandersnatch.
Yeah.
They're sort of their little Black Mirror episode that.
Yeah, like a choose your own adventure.
Allowed you to, yeah. Are they doing more of that, or are they doing games?
They're very vague about it. Bandersnatch is one of the ones they do want to do more that they brought up here. You versus Wild. But they have said that like maybe games based off of like Stranger Things and stuff that they own might also be in there. I would not be surprised if they actually first head into something similar to like the visual novel area, because that'd be very easy for even people to play using their like Rokus and stuff like that, because you really just need directional buttons and like an accept or deny button. That's like all you need, and every Roku's got that.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, apparently, they people consider Bandersnatch a game. I guess it kind of is. It's on the very borderline of what a game is, but
yeah, it's kind of like one of those CDI interactive, movie game things.
With what were the FMVs or whatever was the original ones?
Yeah, like plumbers don't wear ties or whatever. Stupid games where it'll play video and then it'll pause and say, what do you want to do? Or what?
Yeah. Or what was that one? God, I can't remember the name of it. You know the one I'm talking about with the vampires and the sleepover. It's one of the
Night Trap?
Night Trap, yeah, one of the original games that made the ESRB ratings in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could
There
do
were
something
vampires
like
in Night Trap?
that. Yeah.
I never played.
Yeah. Netflix can make their own Night Trap.
That's right. They could. Or
you
they
know,
could
that
just bring Night Trap in.
I was gonna say that would actually be a really good way to draw attention to that as a service, is by just like getting the rights and remaking Night Trap with new actors and stuff like that. And
just purely nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. And people are like, "Oh man, I've heard of this game. This is why we have M ratings, right?" Like, yeah. Don't even put like a movie rating on it like they would for other things. Actually, just put like M, like the video game rating, just right on there.
Yeah.
You know, that game is awful too. But goddamn, I would actually probably go on to Netflix and play it if they did that. Just for the meme, you know?
Yeah, right. We'll actually live stream that or something.
No, that would be banned immediately.
Oh.
Like especially on Twitch's end anyway. Like the second they find out that's coming out, it's like, yep, adding that to the list of banned games before it even hits it.
What? They'll ban Panty Party. Of course, that's just panties shooting guns at each other.
No, Night Trap would 100. I mean, I think it is banned. Like, you can't even stream the original version of it.
Yeah, I mean, it exists now. Can you not?
Yeah. I'm fairly certain that's already a banned game. If you were to remaster it, it would still be a banned game.
Oh my gosh, there's a 25th anniversary edition.
Ugh. I kind of want to see it.
Someone played it 10
well.
months ago.
How did that not make the list of banned games? Well, I guess it is mostly gore than anything. I guess gore isn't really banned that much.
Senor Jefe 1
Yeah.
played it in two separate streams 10 months ago. Well, I'm not gonna play it.
Yeah.
Look, it even has its own category.
Wow.
Although I'm not seeing anyone playing like the original version. I guess they came out with a 25th anniversary edition.
Maybe the 25th anniversary edition's cleaner.
Maybe. Possibly.
Watch, it has a toggle, right? You go into the options, it's like streamer mode, uncensored. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being an option for games in the future. Like, would you like to censor parts of this game because you plan on streaming it? And then it has to be like a... What?
Night Trap 25th Anniversary Edition is available on Switch. What the fuck?
As long as it's properly rated. That's Nintendo's big thing, because they're belating anything on the Switch for the most part. As long as it's properly rated.
It's rated T for teen.
Okay, well then I'm assuming that this 20... it's got to be cleaner than the original version. Again, it was mostly just gore, so... I feel like the original Mortal Kombat would probably only be rated T for teen these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, was there like nudity in the original? Because I'm definitely not seeing
No,
the original.
like it was risque, but they were like in like lingerie or whatever. It was just a sleepover. It was the gore was maybe back then having women in lingerie in a video game that were like actual women, not pixels, probably would have been a big problem. But it was the gore. Like with Mortal Kombat, it was the gore was the reason.
I can't believe there is a 25th anniversary edition, let alone that it's on the Switch.
They knew it'd sell for the memes. Night Trap has a history. Nobody even played Night Trap, but everybody knows about it because it was one of like I think there was 3 games, but it was one of the 2 big games involved in the whole creation of the ESRB and M ratings. It was it and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. What was the third one?
I
Kombat?
said it might have been 3. I don't actually remember. Those are the only 2 I ever actually remember. For some reason, because I remember watching. I think there's an episode of GeForce Icons on the ESRB.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't actually remember. Like, I'm seeing a picture of 3 games there, but I'm only seeing the cover image of 2 of them in my head.
Well, Night Trap, remade or whatever for Netflix coming out 2022. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I still love that whole sequence though. Ed Boon, back when he used to be more of a Chad, just flipping off the Senate.
Oh, I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah, he did that. It was like during the whole hearing when the video game industry decided to self-regulate. During the processions, he actually flipped Congress off.
Yeah.
That's why everybody liked him. It's like it wasn't just because he made a bloody game. It's because he didn't give a shit about it. I was like, no, dude, this is freedom of speech, dude. Let me make my fucking game.
It's so funny because, id was such a small company. I mean, it's indie. They started off by trying to port, what was it, Super Mario Brothers 3 or Super Mario World or something like that to PC. And they're like, all right, that got rejected. Let's make this shooter with heavy metal music. And it's like, they got called up to Congress because...
Doom actually really wasn't that big of a problem. It's pretty much Mortal Kombat, was it? Because Mortal Kombat, right?
Oh, I was thinking Doom.
Mortal Kombat was actually just throwing blood left and right in your face, in at least the arcade version, right? The Sega version also was pretty bloody. The Nintendo version was neutered.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is you'd think it would be better for an industry to self-regulate, which it was for a long time, but now it's become, I guess it's better because you have a choice. So Sony has gone totally overboard with the censorship, but you don't have to get, so you can get most of those games on other consoles in there. Yeah. Or you can get them on Steam if you're PC Master Race.
Yeah. Well, so we have a history of this in the United States too. I think this is why when the option came up, Congress gave it to him, because we also have things like the Motion Picture Association of America as well, where the film industry is always self-regulated with ratings and stuff like that. And we just see this across the board. It's like we'd rather you guys solve the problem yourself so we don't have to step in and solve the problem, because it's probably not going to be nice if we step in and solve the problem. And I actually personally have no problem with our ratings board. The ratings board's not the problem. The ratings board's actually really good too for parents, like letting you know, as a personal judge, is my kid mature enough for the stuff that it says in the game? And a parent knows, as if they're attentive, they know their child well enough. They'll know it's like, yeah, my kid's only 10, but he can play a T game. It's fine. Or my kid's 14 and I don't think he should be playing a T game. That guy's a little...
Yeah, if they're on Twitter yelling at people about anime titties, they're probably not mature enough.
My kid's 43 and he probably shouldn't be playing a T game.
It's funny, I rarely think about that. Like my son occasionally, wants a game for Switch or whatever. I didn't even think to look at the rating.
Yeah.
But usually I know what the game is anyway, like for the most part. Like he's been playing a lot of Celeste lately, I have no idea if there's gore or what the rating is. I assume
Oh, the Celeste is like fine.
Probably
Yeah,
E for everyone.
Yeah.
But he's a teenager anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, what's funny is because Nintendo was called in for those hearings too, because there's a lot of everybody in the industry was eventually called in. That's why we got a ratings board out of it. Nintendo was actually kind of already rating their games though. Mm-hmm. If you go back, at least during the Super Nintendo, even before they actually had to start putting ratings on the game, if you look at the top of the Super Nintendo cartridge, there was this band. Like this kind of like a line that went across it that was a different color. And they were pseudo-rating their games with the different colored lines that were there. The only problem was they didn't explain to anybody which line was what. So unless you actually owned a lot of games and were paying attention, no parent would know. It's like, oh, the light blue band means that like early children can play it.
Yeah. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. I found that out by accident because I'm like, why are all these colored lines? Because I used to have like this chest, this like kind of case, right? That you would put all your Super Nintendo games to. And I'm looking at the top and I was like, these are color coded. Why are these games color coded? The lines weren't all just ratings. Like some meant like platformers and stuff like that. Like they were giving you the game type, but they would have like different color codes for stuff. And I had to go and figure out what those were because like all my games have different colors on the top. And they're
everyone I'm seeing has a red band at the top.
I've had stuff with like purple and stuff like that.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Like every oh, here's a mock-up of Skyrim for SNES. And they need to go out with Skyrim for SNES. Super Mario. So the Super Mario box has a red band at the top. Am I not looking at the right thing?
I don't know.
There's like a line. It only takes up like a quarter of the top of the front of the box.
Yeah, it's very, very small. Most of the lines were basically what the game type was supposed to be. They weren't actually like game ratings and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there were a few games that maybe should have been a higher ratings that had their own colors.
Mm-hmm.
But this was all like pre-rating board.
Yeah. I'm sure it was basically half-assed, not really well thought through. So interesting.
Yeah.
When did they institute? Like, it's kind of funny to think. I guess NES and SNES games didn't have ratings.
No.
Like,
well, but the SNES late life cycles when ratings came about. So like, basically everything before Mortal Kombat didn't have a rating.
Yeah. That's funny.
I'm gonna look.
But I guess
here.
Before that though, it's like, what could you do with pixels that would be scandalous? Anyway?
1994.
Okay.
Yep, September 16th.
Even like early, sexy games like Leisure Suit Larry, and there's like one for, I feel like there's like another one for Atari or something, but it's all pixels. So it's not actually showing anything, even if it's blood or nudity.
I don't know, man. I can make a pretty lewd drawing in like ASCII. And like the ASCII. Like I could make you a pretty sexy woman with just like numbers and stuff.
Yeah. I guess so. But I mean, usually they would self-censor. Like, if it was an adult game, it would be marketed as an adult game, and it wouldn't be sold in toy stores.
Usually computer games, which is far more where you would probably see that stuff, weren't sold in toy stores anyway. You'd go to like an actual computer electronics store to get that. And if it was a computer game, it probably wouldn't be in the reach of children anyway. It'd be up like on a shelf. You pull it off.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, I played Leisure Suit Larry, the original, when it first came out, and I looked it up, and I was 10 when it first came out. And I was trying to remember, racking my brain, did my parents actually buy that for me? Like, I guess they did. Probably not knowing what it was, but I remember playing it when I was like 10, and it wasn't any big deal.
That was the exact argument for the ratings board in the first place, was stuff like that. It's like, well, these parents, they don't know the games. They don't do research. You got to tell them whether it's appropriate for their child or not.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't rated. But, like, the only, like, actual sex scene was at the very end, and it had a little black bar, so you couldn't, it was just, like, censored. And because the whole game was a joke, right?
Yeah.
So it just had some sexy humor, and it was just like, won't it show anything, all the way up until the end when it didn't show anything. So,
well, one of the things to think about too is like even the two games that were the big reason we have the ratings board. It's like, do I like the idea of us having a ratings board? Yes, because I think ultimately it's good for the consumer, right? But at the same time, I don't think the reason it came into being was necessary, right? Like, even going back, I've not played it. I've seen a playthrough of Night Trap, though, right? It's not that bad. Mortal Kombat, not that bad. I played it when I was like 4 or 5, right? It's like it's not that bad. The real problem comes down to is you have to remember what the world was like in the 90s, and how many like staunch Christian conservatives were pushing their way across all kinds of things in the country. It was just a common thing, right? Like even shortly thereafter, closer to the turn of the millennium, near the end of the 90s, there was the whole panic over Harry Potter, which is like the most mundane shit in the world, but witchcraft. Yeah, it's stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
I remember like hearing a bit about Dungeons and Dragons. Like I never
Darkest
took it
Dungeons.
seriously. What's that? Darkest Dungeons?
Yeah. That game, I think it has the same name. There's a game called like Darkest Dungeons now. But if you go all the way back, there was Darkest Dungeons was the name of a Chick track by Jack Chick, who is a Christian comic maker, and I think he was also like a pastor or something like that. And he made all kinds of comics and tracks, right? And one of them was Darkest Dungeons, and they even made a film based off of it too, about the Satanism in D&D, which was like 100% inaccurate in every way, like everything about it. And they're like, playing D&D will send your kids down a path to hell. That's why I forgot what the original film or whatever it was from. Bullet said it at one point in time, but the 8-bit D&D that I sent you, which was just like a remodeling over the voices, that was making fun of that, where it's like, oh, look at the Satan's grasp on your children. Right, this was just the time from the late 80s through until like, it really didn't shift until like 2005 or whatever. And I think, honestly, if you want to see the catalyst for the shift, I think 9/11 was part of it. Right, because it made some people more reserved, which allowed the people who were getting pushed back prior to that more ground to stand on.
How's that? What?
Well, because a lot of the heavily Christian conservatives kind of like bottled up after 9/11. I think it's just because of the emotion of everything going on, and then with the Patriot Act and everything like that, we saw just a huge drop in this like Christian conservative like push. And I don't think it was a generational thing, because it was in a mid-generational gap between when people would be having children and stuff. It wasn't like people outgrew it.
Do you think it's because people realize there's just more important things to worry about?
Probably. I think that has a big thing to do with it. Because a lot of times when tragedies like that happen, people kind of like pull back into their local communities and their families and stuff. They stop pushing on big things like that because they realize things are important. I think that's a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if it's like, you know, you've got all these are first world problems, right? You know, oh my gosh, video games have blood in them,
and then people a real tragedy happens.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, none of that shit actually matters. Let's not worry about that anymore.
But then there were people who the tragedy, I mean, it should have hit everybody, but it didn't hit them as hard. It's like, oh well, now it's time. We've been sitting in the background. We can start pushing things.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I don't think. I mean, if you're talking about like political correctness, like
because political correctness changed who was the people pushing it. Because for a long time, it actually did kind of start with the conservatives.
Somewhat.
Yeah. Like the idea doesn't start with them, but the real big push for it came from the conservative side for quite some time.
But there was political correctness coming from the left back in the 90s, too.
Yeah.
You know, things like, you know, not wanting to call them illegal aliens and stuff like that. That went back to the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And
well, the idea of political correctness, too, goes all the way back to, like, the 50s, which you can actually see it in Soviet propaganda.
Yeah. In terms like African-American and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I mean, I guess there may have been a void a bit when Christian conservatives sort of stopped pushing so hard on this kind of stuff, and it was like
when you cede land, somebody comes and takes it.
Yeah. I think we're again at a point where so many people are worried about so many first world problems.
Mm-hmm. When there's like real things to worry about
so much. What's that?
Is it when there's like real things to worry about?
Yeah. Why are you worried about anime titties when, you know?
I'm worried about anime titties, but in the other direction.
Yeah, you worry that there's not enough.
Yes, we need more anime titties. They're a blessing upon this earth.
Indeed. Never have enough.
No.
It can never be big enough.
Yeah, but that was actually my big problem. Is like, it's not that the board exists. It's just like the dumbass reasons it came to existence. Because I think that also influenced what the ratings were for a long time too, right? Because what we would call M back then, a lot of it we'd mildly call teen now, right? Like,
which is ironic considering movie ratings have gone the other direction. Like
more things that would have been like PG-13 or R now.
Yeah, and like before there was a PG-13, movies like Poltergeist, I believe, were rated PG.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, that would be totally rated R today. There's a guy pulling his face off as blood coming into the scene. Yeah. And it was rated PG.
I think part of that too is like the Motion Picture Association of America has been around for a lot longer than the ESRB. So when the ESRB came around, they actually modeled their ratings to kind of almost match the MPAA. And they already had like all of these different ratings by then, right? This was in the mid-90s. So like PG-13 was already a thing by the time that we had like T-rated games. The MPAA had to evolve over a long period of time. But it is starting to slide back in the other direction. I actually think during like the 90s, after they established PG-13, things were actually loosening up for a while. There were things that, personally, from what my parents showed me of older R-rated movies, that I thought should have been R. I'm like, what? How is this not R? But then we've been sliding back in the other direction. And it's like for weird stuff, because it's like gore in general is starting to become a lot more acceptable in lower ratings. And even like Well, this is just across the board, whether it's games or movies. Being scantily clad seems to be more acceptable from internal ratings. It's the external that's pushing back against it. Right? Like the video game industry, with very few exceptions, like Sony and stuff, would not classify a game as being mature just because a woman is scantily clad. Maybe it would get a T, but it wouldn't be, say, mature.
But like in movies, they practically removed nudity altogether. That's crazy. Like, you know, you watch almost any horror movie from the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
Or even the early 2000s. Like, it's almost a requirement for there to be some nudity.
Yeah, at some point.
At least one scene. And it's just like, that's not even, you can't. That would be like triple X.
They're almost like puritanically, they're trying to get rid of even implied sex. Right? Like, you can show obscured sex in an R-rated movie as long as, like, the scene's not too long and it's not the focus of the movie, right? It's not porn at that point. Deadpool being a good example. There's obscured sex in that. You don't actually see anything, you just see the act of it. But in, like, let's say go back to 90s horror films, right? The people having sex were always, like, the first people to die, right? That was kind of like one of the rules of horror films. And you never actually saw anything, but there was a lot of implied sex in what would be otherwise PG-13 movies. And you can't have that anymore.
There's always a topless woman. Always. You had to have at least one, if not multiple, in every horror movie.
Yeah. Man, the 90s were a wild time.
Yeah. And the 80s.
Yeah.
It's funny because I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was always like, oh, in Europe, they're so much freer and we're so puritanical here in the United States. And, you know, we should, you know, what's the big deal with nudity and blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my God, fast forward 20 years and it's like.
It went the other way.
We're like way more puritanical than we ever used to be in the 80s and 90s. Like, whatever happened to progress here?
Yeah, like, and Europe is too. Like, they used to, I mean, I think they still technically have them, but nude beaches used to be a far more popular thing back then.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them just kind of disappeared.
My dad took me to Greece in the 90s, and we went to nude beaches.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'm not going to be nude, but, you know, fun to watch. For the most part.
Yeah.
Some cases you're like, God, put on clothes.
Nude beach just doesn't sound intriguing to me, because especially here in the States. Well, like, maybe in Europe, there's a lot. People aren't as obese in Europe. Here in the States, I'm like, oh God, if there was a nude beach, I'd be staying the hell away from that place.
Yeah. No, in Europe, I'm talking Europe in the 90s, where there was really
almost
very
no
few
overweight people.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say none, but I recall a
very
few
low
that I wish
percentage.
Yeah, very low.
I definitely wouldn't want to go to a nude beach in Mexico. You know, their like obesity problem is even worse in Mexico than it is here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like per capita, they're the most obese country in the world.
I think poverty. It's funny. Interestingly, like, modern poverty leads to high rates of obesity. Interesting. I think because there's just so much access to food.
Yeah.
That cheap food ends up being very
cheap, low quality food. Yeah.
Yeah, fattening.
Well, it's the sugar, right? It's this stuff right here for most people. That's what does it. Excess sugar becomes fat.
And really, I mean, you know, I don't need to get into it, but it's a proliferation of corn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, corn is ridiculously easy to make, and they just turn it into corn syrup and put it in everything. Well, not in this diet.
Go to Mexico too. It's like, do you know what the number one ingredient in most Mexican dishes is?
Corn.
Yeah. You can't escape corn there.
We could probably get yeeted for talking bad about corn now.
I like corn
mafia
though. Like, I'm actually not going to talk bad about it. You just got to eat in moderation. And not on the cob. Oh, God, I fucking hate corn on the cob.
Really? Oh, my God.
Yeah,
so
it's dude, even when I was young and my teeth were straighter and stuff like that, and I just had better teeth, the stuff from the corn would always get stuck in there. From the cob. I fucking hated corn on the cob. I'm like, give me a knife, I will shave the corn off the cob myself and eat it with a spoon or something.
I like it on the cob. I guess because my teeth are pretty good.
Yeah.
Although it's expensive now. Like, corn prices have gone through the fucking roof. It's like $2 for one corn cob. It's insane.
Everything's gonna go through the roof.
I know, everything has. Like,
but corn is the start, because if corn goes through the roof, that is going to increase the price of everything else, because where the fuck do you think we get our sugar from?
That's right. Corn syrup and everything. Corn's in everything. It's crazy. And I know there were, and I think we've talked about this before, I know there were lots of bad storms last year in the summer, and maybe they're still trying to catch up, but by now they should have caught up. So I don't know why.
It's not just that though. There's also problems with labor for harvesting and processing the corn, for driving the corn places. The shortage is more than just natural disasters.
I guess. Well, they need to stop putting it in our gasoline. Get rid of
like
ethanol requirements.
That's a waste. It's not even really helping anything.
You'd think that produce was almost immune to inflation, because all they would have to do, because they pay farmers to not farm, right? They pay, especially dairy farmers, to throw away millions of gallons of milk because, to keep prices artificially high. So once prices start going higher, just get rid of the goddamn subsidies, and then prices would go down, because you just say to farmers, go ahead, do whatever use whatever land you want.
Well, we should have got rid of the subsidies before prices started inflating. Like a long ass time ago, just get rid of the subsidies. You're not helping anybody.
Well, I can understand if it's like, well, if we just let it go, then farmers will go out of business because the prices will drop.
Well, there's other things you can do, right? I mean, there's a minimum subsidy level. You can give grants to struggling farmers and stuff. You don't need to subsidize the entire industry, especially because, thanks to all this, farmers are actually some of the wealthier people in our society right now. They're not the underclass, and you know this if you live around them. Like, when I was up in Illinois with my grandfather, we were talking and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, they look down at us. They know we're the poor people, because he lives in a trailer park not too far from a farm, and they don't even talk to us. They keep to themselves. They don't talk to the drivel. And I mean, it gives you, I think movies and stuff have given people a very distorted view of the farming industry, right? And it started back in the Dust Bowl. Like, I understand back then why subsidies were necessary, right? We went through a really, really big problem with our farmlands. We haven't been having that big of a problem in general. The bigger problem is that you can't be a small farmer. It's almost impossible. You kind of have to be a big farmer, and they start picking up more and more land, and we just get these like huge expanses of single-owned farms or corporate-owned farms.
What they really need to do is just stop. I assume they're still doing it. Stop paying people to not use their land, not farm. That's crazy. Subsidize people with farmland for not using their farmland.
Yeah.
And hopefully prices would go down, but obviously they're not going to listen to us. I don't know.
No, of course not. But like, it's just weird how the industry works. Like, you shouldn't be subsidizing large farms. right? In fact, large farms you should let fail, right? Once something becomes a corporation. Because then that land can be divided up into smaller farms again if they do fail and other people buy it, and then you could give grants for starting out farmers, and you can allow like the system to sustain itself like any other like capital structure.
What's funny is how unbelievably high tech modern farming is.
Oh yeah, well that's why like I'm fine with giving grants, because even just starting out, the equipment you need is expensive as fuck.
Yeah, and I mean, I've mentioned like over the summer I did some software work for a company that was doing soil analysis, and they'd go around and they'd create these very as finely detailed as any GPS map of soil composition, and farmers pay for this stuff so that they know exactly what to plant and exactly what places to have the highest yields. It's all automated and software driven, and it's amazing. All of the extreme detail that goes into maximizing their profit, I guess.
Well, farming is technology, right? Like when you look at the history of the development of the human race and technology, agriculture is kind of where it started, really. And I mean, I guess you could say hunting is where it started, because the first tools are for killing things. But after that, agriculture is really what's led most of technological improvement for the vast majority of history.
Well, this is funny to watch. I remember when they, before the presidential election, all these politicians talking about farming like it's just, you just take a seed and you put it in the ground and it's easy. It's like, no,
you don't know what
not. That's not how it works anymore. That might be how it works in your garden, but no.
That's not even how it works in your garden. You probably have a shitty garden if you think that's how it works.
Yeah, you go to the store, you go to Home Depot, and you buy these seeds that are, genetically engineered, that have been engineered over hundreds of years to grow exactly the right thing. It's amazing.
A lot of people don't understand how farming works. Look at the Great Leap Forward, right? When Mao just took a bunch of scientists and dropped them on farms. It's like, you guys understand agriculture, start doing. And they came back, it's like the farmers, like, we don't know what to do. It's like, well, yeah, the scientists are not actually farmers. You don't understand how any of this shit works.
Yeah. That's the problem with central management of economies. It's like economies have self-organized so that the people who know the most about what they're doing are doing what they should be.
Specialization, which is encouraged by trade, because you're like, oh, I need to have something that other people don't have, so they want to trade with me. And once everybody gets that attitude, everybody starts doing different things.
Yeah. It's funny when I watch like, what's that?
And then they get good at them.
Yeah. It's funny when I watch like post-apocalyptic movies, like The Stand.
Yeah.
You remember The Stand? Like, they would have lost so much knowledge that if you would like fast forward 10 years after the events of The Stand, like they'd be back in caveman time.
Maybe not caveman time. They probably would have been closer to the early U.S., right? Like when the first settlers came over, right? These were people who, a lot of them, the first ones that came over were actually statesmen. And their, like, families and stuff like that. And these are people who didn't really know how to live outside of the city. Some of them figured out. They hired some people to come with them that could manage the land. So you'd have, like, a few people that are really doing the hard labor. But a lot of the early settlers really had no idea what the hell they were doing when they came over here. But they had access to things, right? Like, they had access to certain commodities that they brought with them, which in the Stand, they would have access to certain commodities that were available in the town that they went to and stuff like that. But after they were done with the supply that was already there, they'd have to figure out how to grow that stuff themselves and everything. I think they would be in roughly the same place as the settlement of this country.
Yeah. Yeah, because who's going to, I mean, never mind who's going to like manage the nuclear and hydroelectric, power plants.
Yeah.
99.9% of the population is gone. But like, yeah, like maybe the first few years of attempting to do farming, they might be okay. But then what happens when they run out of genetically engineered seeds from Monsanto that are engineered to not create more seeds so that the farmers have to buy it every year? Like, who's running Monsanto?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Well, and there were certain people that probably could have helped out quite a bit with that. But two of the most important people, Mother Abigail, who lived on a farm her entire life, died shortly thereafter the founding of their new civilization. And, God, who was the other one? I can't remember his name. He was one of the four that made the stand.
The old guy?
Not the old one, the chubbier one. He had a little bit of weight on the rest of them. He was the guy with the truck at the very beginning that picked Nick up.
The guy with the guitar?
Yeah.
Or the guy from Texas?
No, not the dude from Texas. The dude, I can't not remember his name. I have to look this up now. But he was a country folk. He probably actually could have helped out a bit if he didn't, make the stand with everybody. Was one of the
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chubby guy. Yeah, he didn't do anything except he was there at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I went to IMDb and it gave me the new stand.
Some genetic engineers or something.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I remember who you're talking about.
It's going to bother me, though. I need to know this guy's name now.
You have to look up Stephen King's The Stand.
Yeah.
So, hey, Rick and Eagle and Dr. Kane, if you're still here, welcome. We were talking about you earlier, Rick, in your playthrough Portal. Very impressed by how well you
Ralph
dominated.
That was his name.
Poor Gladys.
Character's name was Ralph.
Of course it was.
He was wearing like a flannel the entire time.
Yes, I remember Ralph.
Ralph would have been handy, but he was one of the people that, made the stand, so he didn't come back.
Yeah.
The only one who made it back was Stu.
Which the ending, at least of the mini-series, never made sense to me. Because I'm like, okay, what was the point of those people going there? There was really no point except for them to just die.
Yeah.
Well, unless there was more to it in the book. I'm guessing there was more to it.
There's a little bit more to it. But it was pretty much the same thing.
They just had to be there to witness everyone dying.
Yeah. Well, there was something about, like, the fact that they were sending people there, the way it was explained in the book, kept the people there because he was organizing basically an army that was going to go take out Boulder. Yeah. But knowing that people were approaching, it kept everybody there. The big spectacle kept everybody there. And then Trash Can Man comes in with the nuke and destroys the entire other settlement. So they were basically a sacrifice, right? Them being there is what let the spectacle happen and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But one of them needed to make it back to let everybody know that things were okay. And that was Stu's job.
Right. Speaking of nuclear bombs in Las Vegas, have you seen the new Army of the Dead movie?
I have not.
I don't think it's a spoiler because they mention it right at the beginning. But basically, Las Vegas has been taken over by zombies, and the U.S. government has decided to just nuke the whole city.
I don't blame them. But isn't that kind of Resident Evil 2?
Yeah,
Where they just nuked Raccoon City.
Yeah. But of course, a ragtag band of ne'er-do-wells has to go in because it's Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And what's in Las Vegas? Casinos. So there's a ton of money in the casinos that they're going to go get before the bomb goes off. So, and then hijinks ensue.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this recently too, right? Because who was it? Somebody was trying to say that Mortal Kombat was a good movie because the standard for video game movies is and has always been low, right? And the whole Nuke and Resident Evil 2 brought this. I'm like, no. There have been a lot of bad video game movies, but I don't think the standard's low because A, the Resident Evil movies, as far off they are from the games, at least from cinema, the first 3 of them are good movies. 4's okay. It's not bad.
The first one. Yeah. First one in particular is really good, right?
Yeah. It holds up well. You don't even care that, like, a couple of the characters are kind of made up because it doesn't matter. It's just kind of playing through almost like it's a prequel to Resident Evil 1, right? This is the real problem. You don't actually see the events of the original Resident Evil game. That movie kind of like takes place before it, like a setup, which is because then you see stars coming in at the end when they're trying to leave, and you're like, oh, so the whole mansion has been overtaken by zombies at this point. Right. So you would imagine that the game's story is taking place after the credits. And then it fast forwards to you being in Raccoon City by the next one. But at least from a movie standpoint, as much complaints I have when it comes to the games, they're well-made movies. They're not bad by any margin. The Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies are good movies. Actually, I would even say they're good movies with the comparison of Tomb Raider. I think they do a really good job there. They're probably some of the best examples of a video game movie done right. And Detective Pikachu is a good movie. Like, there are some good standards for video game movies. I don't think we need to be lowering the bar because some video game movies were crap.
What did you think of Silent Hill, the movie?
I'm assuming you're talking about the main one that was just called Silent Hill that everybody knows of, because there's actually 2 Silent Hill movies.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I thought the
where
first
like Pyramid Head
one
kind of like comes together out of a cloud of the dust, and it's got the hall with all the nurses and stuff in it. I didn't dislike it. I didn't think it was as good as say like the Silent Hill game, but I didn't think it was a bad movie.
What did you think of the Warcraft movie?
I thought it was absolute hot trash. That shat all over the lore of Warcraft. Not like it was close, but it was very, very far. In many ways, it was even further away from the lore than almost any video game movie I've ever watched, because changing the motivations of some of the characters completely changes the story. Throw that garbage out of here.
I don't even remember. It wasn't even memorable enough for me to remember that.
Hot trash. Hot trash Lord of the Rings wannabe ass movie.
What's funny was that they were all like, Blizzard was like, oh, we're being very hands-on to make sure it's good and make sure it's accurate and all this stuff. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Where did that go?
But that actually leads me into something I want to talk about, another movie that's going to be hot trash. We've talked about it before. Why is it every time I hear any information about this Borderlands movie, it just sounds worse and worse and worse each time?
Oh, no.
So we got some more actors who are going to be in the movie as different roles, which don't matter that much to you because you haven't really engaged in Borderlands, but it matters a lot to me because I know these characters. We already knew that Kate Blanchett was going to be in there as Lilith. Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be there as Tannis. Jack Black is going to be the ever lovable but annoying Claptrap. And Kevin Hart was going to be Roland. These were characters that were already established from the beginning.
Mm.
There's some other actors in here that I don't know them too well, but when I checked them out, I was like, okay, I recognize this person. And one of them, I don't like at all the choice for. There's a character in Borderlands called Tiny Tina, who actually doesn't show up till Borderlands 2. With the time gap, she would be a little young to be doing anything in Borderlands 1, but that's going to come up to another complaint of mine in a minute. But the actress playing Tiny Tina, or cast for her name is Ariana Greenblatt, who, I guess her last name being Greenblatt is kind of fitting. You would know her as the girl that played young Gamora in Infinity War and Endgame.
She's cute.
Yes, but she is definitely a mismatch for Tiny Tina, who is a scraggly, almost crackhead-looking 13-year-old blonde girl. Yeah. While the person that played, that was playing her, was picked because she actually looks almost like a young Zoe. What's her last name? Salanda or whatever it is.
Saldana, yeah.
Yeah.
Is she Hispanic?
I don't know. I'm guessing. She almost has like a Mediterranean look to her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know the characters.
I know nothing. I know nothing about
some of these people don't look bad for the characters. Like I'm like, okay, I could see it. Then there was this other.
Could they dye her hair blonde?
They could. I would have less problem if they do. It's like I just want people to make the attempt, you know.
Yeah.
But then there's also Mad Moxie. Moxie is a character who is known for her looks. I mean, her looks are actually a big part of her character. She is a very athletic, buxom lady who is all like painted up, almost like a clown, but not quite. And Moxie was I guess a redneck would be the way to say it, right? She was kind of like a hillbilly redneck who escaped her clan and became like a hostess. She started her own bar. She had a dome, like a battle dome. She called it the Underdome. It's almost like the Thunderdome. And they would have like, you would go in a coliseum and you just wipe out waves and waves of enemies. Like it was just a slaughter fest. Moxie is a very sexual, like she even talks, everything she does is like a sexual innuendo. That's how she talks to you. She is constantly showing off her body and stuff. The character is supposed to reek of sex, mostly because she's kind of overcompensating for her past, but there's like a persona that's built around this. And the person they casted for her, Gina Gershon, does not look like she has the body to play Moxie, as you would expect from modern film industry. But it's kind of important. Old, but because she looks young, right? She's aged well because she has kids. Scooter, who looks like he's probably already in his 20s when you first meet him, is Moxie's like youngest child.
Okay, I was wondering because like Gina Gershon is 58.
No, that's actually probably close to around the right age for Moxie, as long as you look good, because again, Moxie's always wearing makeup and stuff like that. You can't really tell how old she's supposed to be.
I mean, she was in Showgirls.
Yeah, I don't know. I've looked at pictures of her. She doesn't look very Moxie to me.
Was she in Hunger? Oh, Hunger TV. What the hell is that? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
But here's the real thing, right? Because I don't think
as devil's advocate, I'll say there are some sexy pictures of her online.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say I don't think it matters because here's the real problem here, right? Pitchford. Oh God, I only just now saw this tweet. Somebody was telling him that like the problem is going to be if this movie kills the franchise, if it's bad. And he responded like, yeah, the Super Mario Brothers movie sure did kill that franchise. That actually made me laugh. Like, that's a good retort. But so what Randy Pitchford, he's the guy who's in charge of Gearbox, which also means he was the head director for the Borderlands franchise. He was very hands-on. It states that there is a distinct division between what he calls the Borderlands cinematic universe, so he's already using that description for it, and the Borderlands video game universe. It's like, we are authentic to the character's tone and style, but allow for independent storylines. The mediums are not the same, so the content should not be bound by the same rules. Basically, he's just saying they're just allowed to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Which is why you have people casted in roles that they're not appropriate for.
Yeah. So from that, I would gather, don't assume that just because the video game is a success, that the movie will be a success.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, so you're not gonna bank on the video game success as far as, so it could end up crashing and burning and losing a ton of money.
Yeah, well, I mean, they casted Kevin Hart as Roland in the first place. Like, Kevin Hart's not Roland. He couldn't do that. Jamie Lee Curtis is Tannis. I even told you Tannis is like, she's probably in her late 20s in the first game.
Really?
Yeah.
What's Jamie Lee Curtis? She's 62.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tiny Tina, like I said, if it was the beginning, is already, she would be too young to participate in the movie. So, you know, this entire timeline is just a new thing that's not already authentic to the games. And two of the main characters in number one aren't even going to be in the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, two of the playable characters, Brick and Mordecai, have not been casted. And are basically being replaced with the characters of Krieg, who was a DLC character in 2 that you play as, and Tina is basically going to be the other character that comes and replaces it.
So they're Johnny Caging it up, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Have they added any new characters that weren't in any of the games?
Possibly. I haven't seen any yet that have been added that weren't in the game, but there is somebody who's actually, here we go, right here. Haley Bennett is playing an unannounced new character. That's the only thing she's.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah,
I saw Haley Bennett in there, but there's like no character name for her. Okay.
So I'm already going to say it now. This movie is probably going to be a big load of crap.
Well,
maybe some people like it. Maybe it'll be like Resident Evil in that regard. But I know that I'm too attached to the first 2 Borderlands games to be able to like it.
Yeah.
Just already. I can tell you that. I'm gonna go in very biased.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I don't understand why, the whole point is to capitalize on the success of the video game franchise.
Yeah. Capitalize on the audience that's already there.
Yeah. Do they not realize that if you make the movie shit, that they're not going to see it?
Yeah. I mean, I've already had complaints with Borderlands as it is because they kind of fucked up 3. 3 sucked balls. And now you're going to, is this a continuation of the franchise? Is this the legacy you're leaving me? You gave me shitty-ass 3, and now you're going to give me a shitty-ass movie?
And you'd think they'd realize that gamers are probably the most likely to sail the high seas.
Yeah.
If you want to get them to actually go to the theater, it better be like the game, or fuck the hell right off.
Yeah. That's my opinion anyway. That's exactly
I'll go see
how
a
I see
video
it.
game movie if it's like the game.
Yeah, there's a few games
go to
that
the
I think would be a
theater.
great movie.
Yeah, I'll see any movie if it's good.
I'm actually far more inclined to watch freaking Uncharted, and I don't think Tom Holland will make a good Nathan Drake. But you know who does? Nolan North commended Holland's performance, and Nolan North was the voice of Drake. So that gives me more hope for that than I get for the Borderlands movie.
No. And look at the Witcher Netflix show.
Yeah.
I watched it. I liked it. I think people who have played the video game like it. It seems to be...
I think people who read the books probably like it a little bit more than the video game. There's some criticisms to be levied from both audiences, but it's pretty good, and it gets to the heart of what they're trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
They're valid criticisms of it, though. I gave it a good
like the Castlevania manga or anime.
Oh, see, I don't.
It's funny, I've complained about it a bit on Twitter, which probably gives some people the impression that I didn't like it, but I actually did like it. I did realize that the only song from the game that they actually did play was, like, the entire series was in that one episode from season two, I think.
Yeah.
And it was Bloody Tears. That's the only song they ever played from the game.
They should have played Vampire Killer a lot. Like, that should have just been there most of the time. If he's like into a fight as it revs up, Vampire Killer should have just started playing.
He even mentions the whip is called the Vampire Killer.
Yeah. We just like fighting some big monster, all of a sudden you just need to hear
Yeah. So much good music. And I found myself in this last season listening to the music, and it's like, it's okay. They kind of capture the genre of the music, but it's like so unmemorable. It's just like, I'm never going to remember. Like, there's no tune. It's just kind of general rock and roll,
kind of just like
hard
ambient
rock
noise, somebody there vamping, so there's something in the background.
Yeah. There was no melody, and it's like, there's so much good music from those games. Use it.
Yeah.
That was my biggest disappointment. Like I said, are they going to make a Mega Man movie and not have the music?
Oh.
That's the best part of the game.
How would you even make a Mega Man movie? Like, let's be real. Who would you have working on it?
You'd have to have the Mega Man from Captain N. Mega High.
Yeah, you'd have to talk with like a smoker's voice.
That's right.
It's mega-rific.
Yeah.
They need to bring back Captain N.
They
So
do.
cheesy.
The problem is the rights, right? Because so you can argue Captain N as a character belongs to Nintendo because his very first appearance was in a short story in Nintendo Power while it was being personally published by Nintendo. So as a unique character, Nintendo should hold the whole license to that. But then we get into some problems, right? Nintendo doesn't hold the license to all the characters in Captain N. Not too big of a problem. They can be replaced. We can just use other Nintendo characters. The Valiant comics mostly did that. I think Simon was widely replaced with Samus in most missions, right? So the biggest problem is you'd have to replace some of the important characters, like Princess Lana, who I think, while she did appear in the Valiant comics, so it is, as an important character, the rights might be up in the air, was first created by Deke. She was original to the show before she showed up in the comic afterwards. So it's not clear whose rights some of these like more made up characters belong to.
Yeah. I was thinking, well, I mean, I know Lana was an original character, but I didn't realize that means she might be owned by Deke.
Yeah, because that was the first time she showed up, was in the Deke cartoon.
I mean,
she didn't show up in
Deke's
like
still around?
the short. I don't know if Deke is still around. I could look that up, but there's also dealing with Canadians.
Oh well. But they'd have to have Mega Man. Come on, Capcom. Get on board.
That's another problem, like, right, to have Mega Man, you have to work with Capcom. Smash Brothers
would be Konami.
Konami, yeah. Konami's actually been doing really friendly work with Nintendo, though, so I don't think that one's going to be a problem.
They need to bring back, speaking of Capcom,
yeah,
they need to bring back Capcom to do some more 2D Zelda games. Because Capcom did, I know they did they do Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons?
Yes, they did the Oracle games, I think. No,
and
they did Minish Cap.
Cap.
I think they just did Minish Cap. I don't think they did the Oracle games. I mean,
oh, did they? Okay, they did Minish Cap.
They did Minish Cap. I know that one for sure. Okay, yeah, they did the Oracles as well. That one I wasn't sure of, but they did and Four Swords.
Did they do Link's Awakening?
No, they did Oracle of Season, Ages, Four Swords, Minish Cap. Those were the four that Capcom did.
Okay. Yeah, they need to bring them back.
Deke's been defunct for 12 years.
Oh,
December 6, 2008. They stopped being a company.
What happened to all their assets?
I think a lot of them were bought off. I would hope, because it was a Nintendo licensed property, that any of the original characters that used to belong to Deke should probably belong to Nintendo. For Captain N.
From Captain N.
Yeah, specifically from Captain N. Or, well, actually, I don't think any of the other shows they did for them, they made characters. Like, they had their own versions of things, but I believe every character in Mario and Zelda, regardless, were named after actual Mario and Zelda characters.
From this, did they do the Super Mario Super Show?
Yeah, they did the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Was a Deke. It was, you could see it was the same animation studio, and they did obviously the Zelda as well. And after the Super Show stopped, season 3 of Captain N, season 2. Sorry, there's one season Captain N, then there's a half season afterwards. But the last season of Captain N and the Adventures of Super Mario Brothers 3 were an hour block that were shared with each other. They're almost like one show. And that was to replace the Super Show.
Yeah. I remember all that.
Yeah. And they were all Deke. I'm pretty sure Captain N is the only one, and it's very few, but it's the only one that had like original characters to it. And even then, like, most of the characters were just video game characters that they renamed. So I think Lana is like literally the only one they care about.
What's the only one?
Lana, the princess.
Why would they care about that?
Well, I mean, she's part of the story. When it comes to trying to figure out where the rights should be, that should be the only character they actually care about, other than like the one or two other. Like her dad doesn't really matter. They could come up with a new dad. He shows up like once, and it's not even him. It's like an illusion in a mirror. Or was he? No, I think actually he was trapped in the mirror.
It says, as of 2012, most of the Deke library is currently owned by Wild Brain. formerly DHX Media, after DHX acquired the Cookie Jar Group, which acquired Geek.
Now, I know DHX. I've seen their brand on a lot of stuff.
So it might be owned by Wild Brain.
Maybe. And this, going back to what we were talking about earlier, this is a problem with license limbo.
Yeah, which Wild Brain apparently owns Teletubbies.
And the thing is, like, they could just come up with new original characters for it. And just have Kevin, right? They could have a new princess. The problem is Princess Lana was just such a necessary character that I don't think fans of the original show would appreciate if she didn't show back up.
Yeah.
That and Duke.
Oh,
Kev's dog would have to come back. Dookie.
well, was he not in the...
No, that would have
comic?
no problem. He was in the original short story.
Yeah.
Duke would be fine. I'm just saying, like, that's another character that just has to come up. Like, fans of the original show would be mad if Duke didn't show up.
Of course.
Yeah.
I still can't figure out, watching the intro, does he tear off the doorknob off of his door when he's getting sucked into the TV? I'm like,
Off of, like, the closet door in the background.
That is like the cheapest door I've ever seen. It must be made of particle board.
Probably.
Like cheap particle. It shows a close-up of him holding the doorknob and it just breaks off the door. I'm like, goddamn. It's got a strong grip.
And somebody was actually complaining that because I used to cosplay Captain N, that it's like, well, you're too short to be Captain N, which is always a weird thing to complain when somebody cosplays anything. It's like, you can't cosplay this character because you don't look exactly like them. But I actually did the math, because I took that opening scene and I compared him to his wall and the average heights of things, and I'm actually about the exact same size as Kevin, who is a high school boy, so that's not too surprising.
Well, was Simon taller than him? I can't remember.
Yeah, Simon was much taller than. Link was also about the exact same size as Kevin, which makes sense because in like half of the Zelda games, I'm the same size as Link. He's not a tall guy. In some games, I'm actually taller than Link because Ocarina of Time Link is a shorty. Actually, probably taller than Breath of the Wild Link, too.
Yeah, it's funny. These heroic characters, Link and Wolverine, and like are so... A lot of them are short.
It's because their internal stature, right? They're heroic in character. That's what it makes it such a big difference. Like this small guy, but he's got like this heroic spirit to him. That's Link, right? He's not an imposing figure at all, right? Like if you were to just see this guy walk into a room, but he's got like an abundance of courage, and that's what makes him the character that he is. He's willing to do anything to get his job done.
He's got moxie.
Yeah.
See? You got moxie, kid. Yeah, you could play a good Kevin.
Yeah.
I think.
I used to run around conventions dressed as him. I still have my jacket.
I could play King Hippo from
To put on a lot of weight.
The way my weight is going, I eventually could play King Hippo. I could be the eggplant wizard for now.
Yeah, play the eggplant wizard. Eggplant wizard's fun though. Like I like it.
Although
It
I'm
kind
a
of had
little
like
too tall.
a nerdy voice.
That's the only problem, is that I'm 6 feet tall, so I'd be too tall.
Yeah. You just work out, build up and play Simon.
Yeah, definitely. He had that backpack that had everything in it.
Yeah, because he was an explorer with a huge like utility of weapons and stuff, and the most important item was his mirror because Castlevania, and he was very vain.
Is that why they made him vain?
Yeah, that was the joke.
That's so stupid. Like it was fine. It worked. I liked him as a Vane character.
Yeah.
But like,
you had like a really
didn't occur.
deep, froggy, Dudley Do-Right like voice. He was like,
Mhm.
Simon Belmont.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked him always. You know,
Yeah.
being the rival for the princess's affections, sort of. She didn't like him, but he liked her.
Well, you know, he
course,
needed
today, I
somebody
think-
as pretty as himself to hang his hand on, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Of course, today, if they did that, they'd be like, "Oh, he's rapey." Yeah.
What's funny is that
No,
he was kind of Johnny Bravo before Johnny Bravo was a thing.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, even kind of
Yeah,
had
the
like,
hair
that
and
same look and that triangle body shape and
Yeah. I love
always
Simon.
looking at himself in the mirror, fixing his hair.
Mhm. It was. I remember it being a bit of a strange take because I was like, I never imagined Simon being that sort of personality.
Well,
But,
I think I've explained this before too. The problem is all three other characters are the strong, stoic, silent type, right? Who goes by themselves through a world of danger and peril to save either the world or a single person. You know, it varies from game to game. They're all loners.
Mhm.
They're all stoic. Having three of those with Kev, who is supposed to be the team leader, who's supposed to kind of have somewhat of the stoic personality himself, just toned down to a kid that's learning about the world, would be a very boring show.
Yeah.
So you got to give them all like really disparate personalities that reflect not just the way they look, but kind of like where they came from. So they had to come up with reasons for everything.
Mhm.
Simon, I don't think I would have made a Vane. I probably would have made him an idiot, though. Right? Like,
Yeah.
very, very talented, but not very bright. That's how I would have made Simon as a character. And he wasn't too far off that. It was
Yeah.
still kind of in that direction.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, when they go to Castlevania, he seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Most-
Dracula's kind of a nerd. Actually, the real nerd is his son, Alucard.
Right. But
It's
That
funny,
was
is the
a-
most
it was a
dangerous person they ever fought was Ganon.
the what? The toughest person?
The most dangerous person they ever encountered was Ganon.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Ganon's a very dangerous person. I'm not sure, scaling-wise, though, that he would be the most dangerous person based on some of the things they encountered.
Well, they had a tough time going through Mega Man's world.
Yeah.
They
Because
died
Kev
at one point.
Kev never beat, what stage were they doing? I think it was supposed to be Cutman stage. And I'm like, wait, Kev, you can't go to the final level if you don't beat that stage. Did you have somebody else's password?
Yeah, did you have someone else beat it for you, or?
He's supposed to be the game master, but like all these games that he was supposed to be good at, he's never finished. Like he didn't know how to get past Bayou Billy when he was hanging out with Billy. He had to figure it out as they were doing it. And it's like, God, some game master, you don't know any of these fucking games.
Seriously.
Unless he was replaying Punch-Out, I don't think he ever beat Punch-Out either, because he was sucked into the system while he was playing it.
Oh yeah, that's right. I had beaten Punch Out.
Yeah. He was using an advantage too. He had the joystick and everything.
Oh right, yeah. Well, that looks better, I think.
Oh yeah,
Looks
then
better
someone
to
just
have
handing
a joystick, especially when they always, like, whenever there's video game sounds, they always have these bleeps and bloops from
yeah.
the Atari days and stuff like that.
It's like I've played these games. These NES games don't have those bleeps and bloops.
Yeah,
They got some boops, but that's about it.
You have to signal that they're playing a video game by playing bleeps.
You gotta. Well, now see, it's always like generations ago, but it keeps pushing back which one. So now you'll hear a lot of like the bring, like the Mario coin sound, or like the kind of more ringing sound of Sonic picking up a ring will show up a lot. And you're like, man, we haven't used those sounds in like 25, 30 years now.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Yeah, I always remember watching I think in the Wizard movie where they're playing Mario Brothers or something, but it's very clearly like the Pac-Man from Atari 2600 sounds.
Yeah,
I'm like, I recognize those sounds anywhere. I played that for hours.
Where they reveal the final challenge, Super Mario Brothers 3, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, we didn't even know there was a third one." In fact, I actually believe that's Japan. Yeah. Well, I think that was how they announced it here in the States, because it was shown in that movie before it actually launched here.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge ad blitz for that game.
Oh, I love The Wizard. I think it's a good movie. I know a lot of people think it's awful. It's like, nah, because it's not trying to be a video game movie, right? It's just a movie centering around video games. But it's kind of just like one of those rebellious childhood road trip movies, and there's a fun spirit to that movie, like The Wizard. I'll watch it anytime it's on.
Yeah, and it's silly. There's like they like hired some secret agent dude to like track down these kids, or Private Eye or something.
But you could tell like it was made by people that like video games for the most part, at least at that time. There wasn't like a huge video game culture at that time compared to now, but it was at least by people who appreciated, because there was a lot of like really subtle jokes in there, or some not so subtle ones that like only people in the crowd would really appreciate. Like the whole Gaiden versus Gaiden joke that was in there.
Yeah. That's right. And the Power Glove.
It's so bad. He was serious. The Power Glove was awful.
I know.
I kind of want
funny,
one, but I want it as a prop.
People have like reprogrammed it. Like there was some like music composer dude who like programmed this glove to compose music with some software or something.
It was just like, it was a good idea, but there was no way they could execute at the time, because in some ways it's like an early Wiimote, because you set up this really stupid infrared array above your TV and stuff, and it's like, oh well, you can do like driving games and stuff, but it never worked for like literally anything it needed to do.
Yeah.
And that fucking movie sold it to so many people too. That movie sold everyone a piece of trash. Like, I feel like that movie, it really existed for advertisement, right? It was letting people know that there's a Super Mario Brothers 3 here in the States, and it was also trying to sell the Power Glove to people. Those were the two main purposes of that film. And at least one of those things wasn't a waste. I mean, Super Mario Brothers 3 is probably one of the best video games of all time. It still holds up to today. But the Power Glove, it's like, I don't know, that thing was so awful, it might, completely offset the promotion of Super Mario Brothers 3 there.
Possibly.
In fact, I think
it was only in
I don't care. Nintendo, I think you owe a class action settlement for anyone who spent any money on the Wizard and the Power Glove just because of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, although if you think about it, Super Mario Brothers 3 was only in one scene.
Yeah.
As well.
There's a lot of times where movies only exist for one scene when you really think about it. Especially when it comes to letting people know about new products.
Yeah, I guess so. There was a lot of build-up for it, I guess.
Yeah. The whole movie's just ridiculous.
Well, what other news is happening?
Well, let's see. Henry Cavill is in the news because he's going to be starring in the Highlander reboot.
Ooh.
Yeah, that could be kind of fun. I like Highlander. I think Highlander was always a fun movie. I wasn't too big into the TV series. I'd watch like an episode or two, but it's funny because the actor who played the character he's playing in the series actually kind of looked like Cavill. He even says like it looks like it could be like his older brother or something like that. So I think he's a pretty good pick on that regard. But we're who is it? Lionsgate is the studio that's handling this movie. It is the same studio that's behind things like John Wick and The Expendables, and in general, Lionsgate mostly makes good movies. I mean, they were the studio that did the Hellboy remake that was trash, though.
So is he going to be Connor McLeod?
Yes. I mean, who else would he be?
I don't know. Is there going to be a Sean Connery character? Who is that guy?
Assuming? I forget his name. But, like, if you don't have a mentor character that dies, like, halfway through the movie or whatever, how are you really going to sell the plot, right? Like, that's the most important part of the arc. That's really what sets him. Is like, he was just trying to live his life, trying to avoid the other Highlanders. But then when his mentors die, it's like, oh, well, I guess there's no avoiding it. Confrontation has to happen.
Yeah. You would think. I hope they don't screw it up.
I hope they don't either. I don't know. Cavill actually just seems to be doing a good job anytime that he's personally invested in what he's working on.
Yeah. I don't know if he just specifically picks good projects to be in, or if he actually influences them in some way.
Maybe a little of both, right? Like you pick a good project and you're like, oh, you know what? This is a good project. I'm invested in it. Let me do what I can to make it as good as possible.
Mm-hmm. And I would think somebody, I know he plays video games. I assume he's
kind
a
of
fan of the Highlander.
He's kind of a nerd. Yeah.
Yeah. So I assume he's a fan of the Highlander series. So he'd probably be like, well, wait a minute. Does this make sense in the canon or whatever? I don't know how much autonomy actors have in that regard.
A lot of times they don't. It depends if sometimes if they get an executive producer role, it's because they're bringing money to the table, whether it's some of their own or more often their name being on the project, they help draw more money in. That's usually when they have more autonomy on the project because they're part of the funding source.
Yeah. So I'd hope him being a giant nerd would probably lead him to call out things that are weird or not, that don't work.
I think, Highlander is such a loose property, though, by comparison to a lot of other things. Like, there's a lot you could draw from because there was a whole series. But I feel like it's one of those things, as long as you get the core concepts right, most people are just down to watch it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I saw the original movie, but I mean, a bunch of immortals, they chop each other's heads off, they get their power.
You gotta chop off the head. You can't just like run them through or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, is there anything more to it than that?
Yeah, that's about it. Because there's like a heavy tie to Scotland, but that's just because the two main characters and the name Highlander, they come from the Highlands, were Scottish. But, I mean, if you want to draw the movie out longer, have some more battles, actually show other people taking each other out, theoretically, the Highlanders could be from all over the world just as long as the two main characters are still Scottish.
Yeah. What are the stakes in that movie? I mean, in that series? Like,
well, you don't want a bad person
to
be the last immortal. You don't want like a horrible bad person to be the last immortal who's been getting
Yeah.
stronger from killing everybody, right? Like, you'd rather it be like a good-natured person who won't impose himself on society and stuff like that. Because, like, what happens if a horrible person, which is like the guy trying to hunt him down, who could easily become like a tyrannical overlord, kills all the other people that could possibly kill him, becomes immortal, and then just like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm taking over. I'm just going to walk right into like the ruler's place. Because what are you going to do? Shoot me? I'll drop down for a little bit, but I'll be back up a couple of seconds later.
Yeah. I guess so.
It's very vague stakes. It's more of just like the Highlanders are worried about each other because it's like, you're immortal. Do you want to really stop living?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess it's just stakes for the characters involved because, you know, they don't want to get their head chopped off. But I always wondered, like, what do you gain from the quickening? Do you gain physical strength?
I don't know.
Dexterity? I mean...
Because, like, you have to think, too, McLeod just be that skilled of a person that he was able to take down somebody who's been, like, absorbing, you know, all these other Highlanders. Like, this should have been, like, a clap. Like, an easy fight, right? Like a curb stomp.
Yeah, really. Should have had to build up to that, kill some other ones first. Do they keep getting born?
The new Highlander is going to be a Mortal Kombat tournament, but with like great swords.
There you go. Also had something to do with an alien world? Really?
Maybe. I don't remember that much about it. It's been a while since I've watched it. And I know the series went way more into it, and I just wasn't as into the TV series.
Yeah. I saw the movie decades ago.
Yeah, the movie was great, though. I think it's a good movie. I mean, I like Sean Connery, so you tell me he's in something, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah. I'm guessing he's not going to be in this one.
Yeah, no, he definitely won't be in this.
Yeah, who are they going to get to play his character?
I don't know. It's got to be a talent, though. Whoever it is. It's got to be Scottish. It needs to be a proper Scotsman.
Older Scottish actors.
Craig Ferguson.
There you go. Just be cracking up the whole time.
Oh, dude, he's like my favorite Freakazoid character. He played Roddy McStew. He was like the Scotsman in Freakazoid. Even though he was like,
oh,
Crud!
I used to watch his, what's that?
His catchphrase was just crud. He would just say it with like a very thick Scottish accent.
I used to watch his late night show. It's a great day in America.
I loved it. What was it, the Late Show with Craig Ferguson?
Oh yeah.
And he had the horse.
Yeah.
And Jeff, what was it? It's like a gay robot or something like that.
Oh yeah.
No, I love that show. That show was hilarious.
It was great.
I don't even normally like. I don't even like talk shows for the most part, but I like that show. That show was great.
That was awesome. I love that show. Every night, I tried to watch it every night. It's a great day in America. He's hilarious.
Yeah, I just like Craig Ferguson.
Yeah, I've watched like his stand up and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He knows comedy.
Yeah, well, maybe he should be in the Highlander movie.
Maybe, yeah. I'd watch it.
So is it? Are we saving the RPG to the last 30 minutes?
Yes, we are. But it was just before that. I did want to basically give an ad shout out, a free one, for something that I appreciate a lot. And just to let people know what's happening, the Newgrounds Summer Festival is going on from June 25th to the 27th of this year. I will be canceling all shows during that weekend that we normally have, so that's going from Friday to Sunday. because I will be going to it as an attendee. It's a virtual convention that will be taking place most of the day in a Discord. So there'll be panels, there'll be people talking to each other, events going on, community building things, what's it called, like development stuff, like exercises and stuff like that. Oh, you got the post for it? Actually, I had the link up here too, but that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yes, click on that link if you were watching this live. If you're catching this later, just type in Newgrounds Summer Festival. It should be the first thing that shows up in Google. It's actually hosted by a friend of mine. My friend Stan.
Has this been a... Sorry, go ahead. I was saying, has this been an in-person event in the past?
No. This actually, as far as I know, this is going to be the first time that it's actually even become as big as it is. Just because of modern technology. They've done events like this, but it's usually hosted through like the forums and stuff like this. But it's going to be like a full, almost convention panel showcase and everything just happening within a Discord. You do have to fill out a form if you want to attend. You have to verify your age. I didn't, but that's because I know the guy who's running it. It's like, yeah, I verified your age years ago when we were teenagers and met at a convention.
Well, why? Because you have to be 18 or...
yeah, just because of a lot of the content on Newgrounds can range into more of the mature range area. I mean, I've been watching Newgrounds stuff since I was like a preteen, but you know, the panels will be hosting that stuff. You can't really be liable. It's like you can't control a kid that's lying about their age coming in and watching a video on a website, but you do want to try to prevent them from coming into your Discord and panels and stuff like that. So there is an age verification form to get in, but it's just going to be all day. And for people who don't want to attend, or can't verify their age if they're younger or anything, there will be a within the news post a link to a stream for a channel that's dedicated for the Newgrounds Summer Festival on YouTube, and you can watch the Safe for Work version of things over there. So people can still watch and participate. I'll probably be plugging that link various times throughout the day while I'm in there, just, you know, listening to panels and attending things and stuff like that. But I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. The link is in there. I just went and there's absolutely no content.
Yeah, it's just set up for... It's probably got... I think it was a picture of the Tank Man. Captain, specifically, from Tank Man. Is there, and they're just set up to... you know, go live when they're ready, turn notifications on. You can attend. But that actually, Tank Men, one of the reasons, dick jokes are very common on Newgrounds. So the panels will probably have a lot of dick jokes, and you don't want any underage people in your server while you're just making a bunch of dick jokes left and right. Newgrounds is a saucy place. That's why I love it.
I wonder if they'll do an in-person convention next year.
I would love it.
That would be cool.
I'd show up. Does it cost anything? No, because it's on Discord and everything, it's free. The only requirements are that you have to have a Newgrounds account, which is easy to set up, and you have to fill out the form and verify your age. And then you can get it.
And you have to have a Newgrounds account to follow Metal on there.
You do. I upload a lot to Newgrounds. I've actually been slowly uploading all the pages of Realms and Relics to Newgrounds over the last couple weeks or so.
Didn't I follow you?
Yes.
I think I created an account just to follow you.
I think GMT did as well.
Yeah.
I only have one animation on there, if you can even call it an animation, and that's the Oasis incident. I will be putting some actual more professionally done stuff up there after I get some of these sprites finished so I can actually pump these out faster.
Yeah.
I might hand draw them. I've been like going back through. I colored them, cell shaded a couple of them. Like, god damn it! I actually like the way they look hand drawn. I was hoping it didn't, because then I would just be doing the pixel sprites, but it's like, it looks good. More work. But when something looks good, you gotta do it. You know, you can't throw it out just because you wanna, I don't know, use less paper. That's the real reason. It's the amount of like ink and paper I'd be wasting on it, because it takes me about the same time to make these hand-drawn sprites as it does for me to make the pixel sprite of the same size. But I feel like I could experiment more with some of the crazier poses and stuff like that if I'm drawing it by hand than I could if I was spriting. Just because it's easier for me to get a grasp of what I'm doing with my hand. And that's the real reason. It's like, it takes about the same amount of time. It looks just as good, but I can do crazier stuff with it. I might as well just hand draw it, but it's going to come at the cost of like wasting, you know, here's an example too, like wasting sheets of paper and ink and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah. Yeah. And with that, we are in the last half hour.
I was going to say, I'll let you budding animators take care of that.
I guess rebudding? I don't know. Because I used to animate a long time ago. None of the stuff that I made back in like, I think like 2007, 2008. That's how long back I used to animate things. I was in high school at the time. With sprites too. None of that stuff's available anymore. I think maybe a couple of the dumber shit that I did might still be available on my Facebook if people were to look through Facebook video and they were my friend. But like, none of that shit's available on YouTube. That account for YouTube, and it was never archived because I was never big, was nuked. And then I reset up another account on YouTube with that same email address after I deactivated the channel to cement that channel's just gone. There's no archive. That channel does not exist anymore. It's now the 12.2 TMTV channel. So all of those animations are just out the window. Even my really cringy Bohemian Rhapsody sprite animation, where I made sprites to sing Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff like that. All of that cringy shit I did as a teenager, kaput. But I did used to animate. I know quite a bit of what I'm doing with animation, and I'm kind of happy to jump back into it. It's an old hobby.
Neat.
Yeah.
So we played some RPG stuff fun last week.
We did. And
RPG.
We're about to play some tomorrow. Because we will have I will have the recording space to be able to actually play it and run it so that we can all play.
And we have a new logo.
We do. Oh, I can pop on the screen. I was bored. And more importantly, I guess not just bored, but what image is this? Maybe I can replace this. Yes, that was a Pokemon Snap image. I can totally replace that. The real problem, I keep jumping in and out of the game, right, to add things and update shit. And every single time I open up the Roll20 page for that game, it's blank. And I'm like, God damn it, it needs a header image. And I just keep getting lazy, and I didn't put a header image, so I finally just added one. Because I was tired of just seeing it there without a header, and we turn it on.
Featuring Dana.
Yeah, featuring Dana. And it's I just made a Final Fantasy style logo with the name of the game, the Blytosaurus, and obviously 6 is the color scheme I used for that. The bar even that would say advanced because it was like Final Fantasy 6 advanced. That's why I picked that bar specifically. And Dana was kind of inspired by Terra, so I'm like, okay, we'll use the same color. And now we got this nice little little thing there. Everybody sees it when they hop into Roll20 if they're in the game, or if they hop in, that header's there. And I was just tired of there not being anything there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, take that back down. The heck did this image go? There we go. Freaking got way too many layers on here to scroll through. Like, what did I name this? Yeah. So yeah, last Sunday, you guys were still in the Temple of the Heretic Priest, making your rounds around the place, probably spending way too much time in there. And eventually, after you guys went and you cleared...
We had to clear every room.
Yes, every room that could respawn enemies had to be cleared.
That's right.
Yeah.
At least once.
At least once, yeah. But after you made it back to the lobby, you finally went down and you cleared out those two giants that were basically guarding the treasury, and you got your remaining items. And at that point, Dargonus was like, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. Because he didn't want to have to... you did bring up first that you were kind of sad that you spoiled the attempt to get in to the stained glass window in the front. But he's like, I'm just going to go to the stairs. Yeah.
If we had done that, if we'd been able to get up there that early on, we would have gotten our asses kicked.
Yeah, probably. With how low level you were. But you still had really good gear. It's just, he did melting damage, so your gear didn't really matter too much against that.
Yeah.
But Dargonus is like, I'm not walking through this entire place again, fighting all these fucking battles again. We're just going to walk around the back of the place and go through the window in the back.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of agrees, especially your guest characters. Like, yeah, no, that's a plan of action, So you guys all go to that. And then there's like bickering for way longer than it needs to be about actually getting it. One, I thought I explained it pretty well. You picked up on it. You even drew like a little diagram of what I was describing. But Rick, for some reason, could not get his head around what I was describing of like this lip into the next floor.
Well, I didn't get it at first either, I have to admit. But I guess eventually I figured out what you were trying to say.
It's like, am I going to have to start drawing these buildings?
The second floor is bigger than the first, so they had an overhang.
Well, just in that area. Out. Yeah.
Yeah, in back. So there's the wall of the first floor, and it goes up, and then there's an overhang where the second floor is partially above you.
Yeah.
But I think what Rick didn't get was that there was no platform.
Yeah, there's no balcony or anything.
Floor. It was just, it jutted out like this, and then just went straight up, and the glass
it was right there.
Wall was just right there. So once you break through that glass, you're in the building.
Mm-hmm. And then once that was finally gotten control, like everybody understood what I was talking about, there was still bickering.
Drew a little picture.
Yeah, there was still bickering. It's like, maybe we should send Dargonus up there first. I mean, it was his idea, but it's like, he's the toughest, right? Like, Rick's just trying to find any excuse not to put his character in there first. He was picturing the opposite of what you drew before you drew it.
Oh, he was picturing it like just went up and then jutted in, and there was like a place to stand.
Yeah.
There. Oh, perfect timing. Oh, wait, John wasn't even there.
No, he wasn't there. He'll have no idea what we're talking about. He missed the entire boss fight.
What happened? Well, I wasn't there for what?
Oh, well, we're in the final section of the Saturday show where we talk about what happened last week on the RPG.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch it.
You were camping.
I went to go watch it, and it said 8 hours.
Yeah. I don't blame you for not watching it. It's better if you just catch a recap.
I was like, sorry, I can't do that.
Yeah.
You should at least watch the beginning and see my lovely picture depicting the outside of that building.
Beginning, Marsupial, that was like almost 2.5 hours into the show. I know this because last night, or this morning, whatever, I rewatched through the whole thing again on double speed so that I could give you guys your experience and stuff that you earn. And it took me like 4 hours to watch the whole damn thing.
Imagine that math.
Yeah. If you, actually, it's only 7.5 hours if you cut out the breaks that we took and the beginning and end, but still 7.5 fucking hours.
Oh, Marsupial, I gave away your present. It came incorrect.
Present? Oh.
Yeah, I got you a present for your birthday. I ordered it on Amazon.
Oh.
And it arrived, and it was supposed to have your name on it. It did not. And my cousin Ray was over, and I gave it to him.
Okay.
It was one of those wooden mugs that had like a embossed bronze chocobo on it.
Oh, really? Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't
He was
have
like,
to
that's
have
so cool, and I was like, it's supposed to say Marsupial Gamer on the bottom.
Oh.
I even
Yeah, I
waited
would've-
extra long.
I would have just thrown that in the trash. What is this crap? It doesn't even have my name on it.
That's what he was thinking.
I know how much you adore, Final Fantasy. Jesus.
Yeah.
And how much you hate Ark.
I don't hate Ark.
I do.
So what happened on the? What are the big things that happened
Yeah. So, just
on the
quickly.
Sunday show?
I already covered a little bit of this, but I talk back through it. They made their way back to the lobby. They beat that thing that you guys were standing in front of. They went back through and fought those two giants that were guarding the treasury, and they picked up the last of the treasure chests. And then Dargonis had the idea of, like, instead of walking back through everything and fighting several different waves of monsters, let's go around the back and just like break in through the window at the staircase, since we know where the staircase is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's where we were just discussing. That's where we left off.
Okay.
There was confusion as to my explanation of what the room looked like until Marsupial finally understood exactly what I meant and drew it for Rick to understand, because Rick just was not grasping the words I was telling him. Because the nope. Yeah, it's special guest Dillard.
Somebody knocking on his.
I know. Yeah, and then
His tiny house door.
afterwards, there was more bickering, which I like. We need more bickering. Bickering is what makes like role-playing games interesting. Personally, I prefer when people are bickering in character, but bickering in general, that's what makes role-playing games interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, what were we bickering about? Who was going to go up there first?
Yeah, because Rick's the one with the bird. But, like, Rick didn't want to go in if there was somebody tougher than him that could go in first. You know, just in case there's anything in that stairwell up there.
Yeah.
Which technically there was. It was more in the doorway at the end of the stairwell. There was another pair of giants that were blocking the actual main sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's a stairwell. How often do you ever get attacked in a game in a stairwell?
Yeah. Not often.
Yeah. The stairwell you guys were already technically in. Like, I didn't open up the full thing because you guys only went up to the platform right in the middle of the flight of stairs. You didn't actually go up to the surface.
Mm.
So I could have revealed the whole thing, but it's like, you guys didn't attack when you went to the platform, so why would he expect that just going through the window suddenly something would attack him?
Yeah. So we all just ended up there. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was real.
Now here's Rick.
There was no
here to defend
no need
himself
to,
and
yeah.
his decisions.
There was no real need to take turns going up there. It was just like, okay, now you're all up there, right? Or did we take
Yeah.
turns up?
I didn't realize it was just going to be the stairwell on the other side of the window.
Well, that's the whole reason you
I
went to
was-
that window. Dargonis is like, because he knows where the stairs are.
Yeah, well, I got that we knew where the stairs were, but I was thinking it was just going to be, something to the effect that, right in the boss room. It's, open up the stairs, come right up into the boss room. I was mistaken that way.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Now, if you guys had went with Diller's plan in the first place, in the first episode that you showed up to this place, you would have ended up right in the boss room, right next to the boss. Though Rick would have been, if Rick had broken, like I had this whole scene planned out too, where the second he broke the window, he can't be caught off guard. He'd be fully aware it's happening to him. His character just wouldn't be fast enough to react to it. The second he broke the window, a magic missile was going to pile through, hit him, and then knock him on his butt. Now, he has float, so he wouldn't have taken fall damage, but because of the slope of the building, he would have rolled back down to the ground from the knockback of the magic missile.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been funny, and I'm kind of upset that didn't happen.
Oh. That probably would have deterred us from trying to go back up there.
Probably, but it would have been funny all the same.
So magic missile isn't a thing.
Nope.
In the Final Fantasy.
Nope, I added it.
New spell you made up.
Yes. That only exists in those moats and that rod that I gave you. Because I said I added a lot of things to the game that are just hidden throughout the
picturing
place.
I was picturing them as like tech missiles from the Magitech armor. That actually shows like a rocket comes out and hits the thing.
What's funny is that Magic Missile doesn't actually have a real description of it, right? It has a very vague description that goes all the way back to Chainmail, even before Dungeons and Dragons. And it can basically be anything, because the only type of projectile magic back in Chainmail was a magic missile. You could declare a type, you could like a fire magic missile, but a missile was just a type of projectile. Once you toss something, it had missile mechanics. You could toss a rock, you could toss your sword as a missile, firing an arrow as a missile. So any type of magic that was fired was a magic missile, and then D&D eventually turned it into its own spell, and it's kind of described as bolts of light that are condensed and just kind of like strikes the target.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it was used in like Ultima 3. There was magic missile, which acted as like a low-level fireball spell. Like, because in that game, fireball was really just a more powerful magic missile.
He wouldn't get the reference. I was hoping that Flit would have picked up Bart's Rod to have magic missile. One, because he has the highest magic out of anybody in your team, so he'd be doing the most damage with that otherwise low-level spell. But two, because of his character, I was thinking of like, the whole 8-bit Dungeons and Dragons thing, right? Where he's like, oh, I'm trying, if you let me, I want to cast magic missile. On what? There's no targets. I attack the darkness. And then everybody laughs. And Flit's character really hates dark stuff, so like, oh man, he needs magic missile. But he doesn't know the reference, so he didn't want to pick it up.
So he could attack the darkness.
Yeah, instead the guy with the darkness picks up magic missile.
I mean, I'll give it to him. I still have that.
No, I mean, you just use it, man. It's a freaking long-ass range spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I gave it the exact range that magic missile has in D&D, which is 120 feet.
Which is, that's
24
squared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was good because, well, not good, because he was casting it on us from across the room.
Yeah, from this freaking 90-foot room, and then like if you add the stairwell, it's like, oh, dude, he can hit you from the back wall as long as you're still in sight and he knows where you are.
Yeah. So yeah, the priest shows up, and of course, what's her name?
Yeah. So that's a little fast forward. You guys went up the stairwell. Once you were in there were two more giants that were blocking the path, and you have a little tussle with them. Blitzkrieg kind of hung back because she's got a gun, and could just like shoot from where she was at the window while you guys were just doing your thing.
You can keep going.
Yeah, and that's when you entered the actual main sanctuary. You finished leveling up and stuff. And you saw Bart, the heretic priest, on the other side of this 90-foot room. It's like fucking crazy. And Blitzkrieg rushes at him because he talks to you, and he immediately calls her by her actual name, and she hates being called Anya. And as she rushes him, he just bops her in the head with a magic missile, knocking her off her feet.
You know, for such a big chapel, he didn't seem to have any, compatriots, parishioners in there.
Oh, you guys were actually going to find something out. It's basically a death cult.
Yeah, so he's the only one that gets to live, right?
Yeah. Like, because you saw those husks at the bottom, right? The things that like used to be people, but they're just like a husk of them. The ghouls that you fought. Yeah. But also there was like the Ahriman, the heretic Ahriman. They were said to be timid. I was actually wanting you guys, somebody to try to intimidate them. Because if you successfully intimidated them, instead of like running away, I was going to have like literally all of them just kill themselves in front of you to mortify your characters. They were just going to pull out like knives and stab themselves through the heart. You're like, dang it.
That would have been funny, but not funny.
Yeah. Think nobody intimidated the Ahriman. So upset.
So what's going on?
Oh, he was saying that like the sanctuary was pretty empty, despite the size of it, and it was telling us because it's like a death cult. This is why there were those like zombie like husks down there. And if you guys, when you read the description of the Ahriman, the behavior says that they're faithful but timid, or they're zealous but timid. If you were to intimidate them successfully, unlike the Sahagin who run away, they were all going to pull out knives and stab themselves in the heart right in front of you guys.
But if we had Dillard there to intimidate them, sure, some of other of us could have tried, but I think Dillard's the only one that would have.
But Dillard was there. The problem was Dillard was like constantly in and out of calls, so he probably didn't notice that they were timid. All he did was he like punch rushed and blew one up. But yeah, so all of his followers end up dying. Except for like the giants, but that's because they're paid security.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so then we got to the battle. Have we gotten to the battle yet?
Yes. We got to the point that Blitzkrieg got shot in the head by a magic missile as she ran up to him.
Very good.
Well, actually, it was the shoulder. I believe that's specifically what I said as she got nailed in the shoulder, but it was enough to knock her back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was
these matches have knockback.
A long ass fight.
Yeah. Well, then I think we're all like, holy crap, we're all the way across this room. We're gonna die before we can.
Yeah, it's almost like I designed the room in this, what I called a challenging dungeon, which would be if you guys didn't have all this like high level gear that I let you guys go out of your way to get. I'm not complaining that you haven't. I put it in the game for a reason. But if you had gotten here with the amount of gear that you're supposed to get, which at level 20 to 25, you're supposed to have like tier 4 gear, which is the most that you can buy in Hanister itself. When that's 20 to 25-ish is about when I had this adventure designed to come to an end, which is also why you could buy up to tier 4 gear in Hanister for the beginning of the campaign. if you had the proper level gear for your characters, it would be a very, very tough dungeon. And it was designed to be a tough dungeon. It's a bonus dungeon. Actually, I've done the math too. Between her health return that she can get and the bombs that she has and how easy it is for her to proc her limit, Blitzkrieg actually can fight that boss by herself. It just takes like almost twice the time that it took you guys to do it.
Mm-hmm. It wouldn't have taken us so long if John had been there.
It also would have taken so long if Flit decided to get off that bird.
Yeah, the bird had been able to kick.
Yeah. Just melting damage. I even told Travis to going into the session because I tell him some things. Mostly because it's like, Cassandra. She knows about the future, but she can't tell anybody about it because nobody will believe her. Except in this case, it's not that nobody will believe him. It's that he's not allowed to tell anybody about it. And I like to watch him squirm. But I told him, it's like, Rick's bird is probably going to be the MVP. Or like one of the MVPs of this fight. Didn't get to go at all.
Yeah, not so much.
It got to go about 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, well, part of it too was with the long hallway, I knew your bird would be useful for getting people to the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like the whole thing was designed to bait you guys into stuff. Like, if you did go and get all the treasures, I'm like, ooh, this long hallway, and he's casting magic missile. The magic missile is melting. The moat is specifically designed for you to use it against him once he becomes like super armored and hard to fight. But somebody's gonna be way too tempted to use it before they run down the hallway to be able to hit him at the same reach that he can hit them.
Yeah.
And things like that. Like the Geisel Greens. Yeah, you did. You used it while he was still Bart. The Geisel Greens were all designed to be used against him too. But because the chocobos let you run between towns, it's too tempted to just like save it.
Yeah.
But your level times D6 is just melting damage, and you were given 10 of them. Like that's a decent amount of damage that just can be applied every single turn until you run out.
Yeah.
But you all eventually made it to him in one piece. You slipped your sprint shoes back on so you could get there faster. Because those things actually really...
16 spots in one turn.
Yeah, when you dash, like they actually do get you zooming around.
Plus, since he was strong to dark, there was no reason for me to wear those black earrings anyway.
Yeah.
So.
It wasn't even strong to dark. It was he fed off of it.
Oh, he absorbed it?
Yeah, it would have given him health back.
Yeah, that's right. So, obviously wasn't going to cast Dark on him.
If somebody didn't scan him yet, and you did cast Dark on him, I would have just like, how much damage did I do? Negative whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I healed him.
Yeah, not a good idea.
That reminded me, it's slightly off topic, but I was playing Final Fantasy VI the other day, and Gao has the ability to rage. He can, he leaps onto an enemy and he disappears, and when he comes back, he has the abilities of that enemy.
Yeah.
One of the best enemies that I've found so far has been the Ghost, because it can cast like Thundara, really strong thunder spell. Problem is, when he rages as a ghost, effectively he gains a zombie status, or I guess actually he gains a zombie status. So I was fighting with him. He got hurt. I had Celis cast heal on him, and it killed him. I was like, oh shit. I had no idea that doing the ghost made you a zombie, so casting heal killed him.
Yeah. You also found out that your limit was also useless against that boss, because he was immune to all status effects.
Yeah. Well, I'd already used it anyway.
Yeah. And then what little you built up, you lost when you died at one point in the boss fight.
Yeah, I KO'd. Did Flit KO too at some point, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
You KO'd, Flit KO'd, Rick KO'd. The only person who didn't KO that was actually a member of your party was Dargonis.
Okay.
Blitzkrieg didn't die either, but like I said, she has the ability to heal herself, and her limit fills up pretty fast by the damage he does because she doesn't have like a terrible amount of health. It's enough to survive. That she'll get most of her health back when she uses her limit. So she actually could fight that thing by herself. I wasn't expecting her to ever go down. But yeah, so you guys found out, as Flit was the first one who was allowed to say anything because he wasn't told information. He figured it's like, oh shit, this guy doesn't have any amount of health. This must be a multi-stage boss fight. That was like his logical processing there. Not because like Travis knew, but also the character that he becomes, the name of the character was in the drop at a 100% drop rate for the boss. Yeah. And he became Barthandelus, which is the final boss in Final Fantasy 13. Well, he's a recurring boss, but he's also the final one. You fight him a couple times in the game. Yeah, that's who he became. So when you guys killed Bart, he like Obi-Wan Kenobi'd down into his robe. And then it started reforming as this mechanical god, this like Deus Ex Machina, Barthandelus. That had a lot of health for a level 25 boss, and compared to like almost anything you fought to this point. And started shooting magic missile at everybody at the same time.
And it was like none of his attacks were particularly devastating, but the fact that he could attack twice in a row and his speed was relatively high meant that potentially, depending on the roll of the dice, he could end up attacking anyone or all of us up to 4 times in a row before we had any time to react. And I think that
because he had no ability to haste himself, and he could not roll high enough to get extreme initiative. So, at most, he could only ever attack you guys twice.
No.
No, well, I think what he means is if he's.
Or you're talking about like at the end of a turn and then at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, well that's possible. Yeah.
If he was the last of the previous turn and then the first of the next turn, he attacks us 4 times in a row.
Yeah. I thought you were thinking of extreme initiative at some point in time, but yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But that's when he was able to do twice. At first, he was only doing once, right?
Yes, and that's because I ran some skirmishes, and I wanted Blitzkrieg to be able to fight him solo. And when I gave him the ability to use X action from the very beginning of the time that he became Barthandelus, she died twice. So I'm like, okay, what happens if I do it at half of his health? She beat him the first time that I did that. Okay, that seems about balanced to me. She's a guest character who I did say if you left her at any point, she would just go and do this by herself. I have less of a problem with you guys doing this fight, as challenging as it is, if your guest can take him on. Because you can still lose, right? You guys could all die, and she would continue on without you, but then you'd just roll up new characters or whatever at that point. And maybe you'd meet her again later, who knows, but she wouldn't know you because you'd be new characters.
What's funny is that he almost would have been, does being immune to status effects, does that include good status effects?
I think so. No, because I think the status immunity only affects negative status effects. I don't think positive effects are in the list. Because I have to do experience-based things, so I have to, when I make him immune to everything, I have to add in the bonus experience it'd be worth for each type of status effect that's being added in. And I don't believe like barrier and strength and stuff like that are in the list.
Yeah. Well, I guess no. I was gonna say he might have been less dangerous if he had been hasted, but not if he got double initiative. Not if he got to attack twice in a single.
Yeah, extreme initiative. I mean, it wouldn't be in a row, but within a turn. Especially if he ended up rolling multiple magic missiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty
bad. But either way, even not hasted, he was dangerous. Like like I said, none of his attacks individually was particularly devastating, but the fact that I guess halfway through he started attacking twice per round meant that he could hit you up to 4 times before you could.
Well, and also for the most part, I mean, Dargonis is actually just really beefy, so it probably wouldn't matter too much. But for Rick's case, he hadn't been using his melee attack, but because he's a giant mechanical monstrosity, he actually had like a strength of 12 and power strike. So he did kill Rick the one time that he managed to land a punch on him. He just like backhanded Rick, and he's like, yeah, even with protect, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, also I think I was down a little bit of health at that point too.
Yeah, it was the second attack in that turn as well. So I think you were hit with a magic missile barrage just before that, so that already did some true damage to you. And
yeah.
But we managed to. We had some Phoenix Downs. That's what the Phoenix Downs are for.
Yeah. Or the boot full of Bailey, like you were arguing with Flit, and he's like, do you have anything less than that? That's a lot. It's like, this is what they're for, Flit.
Yeah, I know. That's true. Yeah, because I was like, here, I'll give you this. I'm going to use this on you. And he's like, oh, is there any? Yeah, I'm like, no, this is the time. Like, what are you saving it for?
Yeah. Plus, it gives you MP, which you also need because you're our healer. So just drink this up.
Yeah, exactly. That was the perfect time for it. I mean, really, a boss fight is the time.
Yeah, that's when you use that shit.
Yeah, especially this major of a boss fight, and we're semi-struggling.
Yeah, it was like the Greg fight again for the most part, right? Like the fight you got it from was similar to the fight that you needed to use it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the perfect time.
With this one, we weren't as incapacitated as the Greg one. At least we were able to attack it fairly regularly.
Yeah.
It's just
to be fair, you actually should have been able to attack at least at some point. Because we misunderstood how immobilize worked. But the charm section was still very, very, I'm sure, annoying for you guys during the Greg fight.
This one was way more straightforward. It was more of a slugfest. He hits us, we hit him. We hit us. That was just it. Just back and forth. And, who has more at the end,
Yeah, well, you should also be glad. Originally, I was going to have him spawn out little minions that were like half his level that he could consume and gain health back. But I'm like, no, that's too much.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, if his armor hadn't been so high, that might have been doable.
Yeah, again, this is supposed to be a challenge dungeon. You actually weren't even technically ever supposed to go here. It's an optional thing that if you happen to meet her. And it's very likely you could have met her very early on, depending on how things go. Because she only spawns after you finish the prologue and after you spend 2 weeks in the game. But if you're like spending a lot of time role-playing in town, 2 weeks can go by in a single session, depending on what you're doing, So it is very likely you could have met her at any time. But it doesn't mean you have to go with her right away. Actually, I said, like, I would prefer that you guys be ready in a week. She would have just sat there forever.
Yeah.
Realistically, she would have just sat there forever. But you beat it, and then you quickly found out afterwards, after you got your rewards and stuff, and you picked up Bart's rod, what Blitzkrieg was doing in those corners the entire time that you guys were in that building.
Mm-hmm.
Which I even kind of alluded to when she first used her plastic explosives on her, because she looked in the bag, like, yeah, I still have enough. And she had been planting C4 throughout the entire building. Well,
I must admit, I thought Flint was just being a bit paranoid there about her being in the corners and all that. That time, and then
he was picking up on a pattern.
Yeah. Because I always put her in a
figure out
in a structural corner after a battle.
Yeah.
Because it's always an inside corner. It was never like on an outer wall or anything. I want to take down the supports on the inside of the building.
Yeah, in retrospect, I wonder if I had gone to the corner, or anyone gone to the corner where she had been fiddling, could we have done like some sort of awareness check to see if we see?
Yeah, you probably could have done like an awareness or something, but the
Or
problem
inspe-
is
or
you guys always alerted her. Like you would talk to her directly, which would give her time to
Yeah.
actually like cover up what she's doing, and you would only be able to see what she was doing because, like I've described, the walls aren't really walls, right? There's like a lot of structural supports, but for the most part, it's like pipes and cables hanging everywhere. They're so dense that you can't see the other rooms in between. Like pseudo walls. So she's like shoving this. Yeah, and she's like shoving these plastic explosives into this mess of like cables and hoses and stuff, and you wouldn't even know what you were looking for to even pick it out of the crowd.
Or would it have been an inspection? Is that a thing?
Like an inquiry or something?
Inquiry check
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something. Anyway.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple things that I got high in that for something like that. I think if I rolled a like crit roll, it might have been able to actually
Well,
see
possibly, but
something plays. I think my character.
there's only
Should've been
one
able-
person on your team that knows anything about explosives, and that's Dargonus.
Yeah.
So again,
Well,
none of your other, even if you crit Rick, you wouldn't know what you were looking for. It's just a dark mess. Like, even if you saw the brick of C4 that she put on there, you wouldn't recognize it. You would think that maybe that's just part of the structure.
Yeah. But then again, having trained their military or whatever, wouldn't I?
You trained as a Dragoon specifically, Rick.
Yeah, but wouldn't I? Maybe that been in a course what that was.
No, you're not an explosives expert at all.
Well, I'm not saying an expert, but casual knowledge.
No, you're a cavalryman. Dargonus,
You don't
as
know
a
it.
miner, would have had experience with explosives. That's why he freaked out like the second she started like kneeling down and fiddling with a timer in her hand after the Barthandelus fight.
Yeah.
And then you guys had to enter a scene where you ran off the roof of this building out of that giant stained glass window before the building blew up on you guys.
Or I was very glad I still had my sprint shoes because I was able to sprint out of there in one turn. It was like, boom! I'm on the ground.
It was a very easy scene. That's probably actually like the easiest part of the whole thing, because it's designed that anybody level 25 should be able to run out of there. But yeah, she's like, fuck this place, I'm blowing it to hell, and the thing collapsed. If you guys did not pick up those last treasure chests before going to fight the boss, or any of the treasure chests, if you guys went straight to the boss and somehow managed to beat him, they would have all been gone. Just everything lost. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad
we
we went
cleared
that well.
What's that?
I said I'm glad we went and got everything, man.
Yeah, I think we did. Cleared it out.
And yeah, she gave you your rewards, and then kind of just pieced. She was out, wandering around in this other world somewhere. And,
Yeah, good luck to her.
and Dargonus decided he didn't want any of her dirty money.
She's probably gonna go back to the crystal and go back to the regular one.
You don't know what
I
she's
would
doing.
figure.
She
Yeah,
could go
for
for a
sure.
swim in the ocean. Who knows?
But I think that's a good recap. We've made it to the end. Took a little too long to talk about it. We're already like almost 15 minutes over. So we don't really get to give too many of impressions. But you can see us tomorrow play the next part of the game, where things are hopefully interesting, because I do already have the next dungeon set up. It's going to be really easy because they're going to be over leveled for the dungeon, but I'm sticking to the levels I gave it based on the course of the story of the game. but there'll still be some interesting parts to it. I guarantee it. So
Yeah,
check
well,
around.
it depends on what we do too.
Yeah, you guys could kill yourself. I mean, that happens a lot. At this point, the enemies aren't the scariest part of your game. It's the players.
Well, it's the dice.
A mixture of the dice and the player decisions. I mean, both Manly Cougar and Borovo almost died once just because Borovo decided to go for a swim while drunk and not actually knowing how to swim.
Yeah. It worked out.
Yeah. But that's it for the episode. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with somebody else who may enjoy it. And if you really like it, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. A second plug for that in the episode. And we'll see you guys next time. Hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah.
Across the galaxy. This monster is reborn again and again.